this has been. And I think you look at the flowers, you look at the 17th hole, you look at HDTV makes all those things pop. One of the favorite reasons I love covering horse racing in this business when I did is because of the colors and the sound. And HD television and horse racing made it unbelievable. You know, I mean, it took you to a different level. And I really feel like this course has done that and helped elevate the Players' Championship. It's not the sole reason. It seems a little silly. But I do think subconsciously it's been one of those things that's helped the NBC coverage, their ratings, and globally everybody be even more attracted than ever to this golf course and this golf tournament. One thing that's fascinating about the March and May is like the average score is not very different. This will play harder, you would think, because of the wind swirling. And there's been some tough tournaments when it was in March, but it doesn't differ that much. Usually around 12 under will win it. You can do that, right?
I'm sure if I applied myself to it. I mean, if Jalen Ramsey can play in the NHL, I can definitely be on the PGA Tour.
Here we go.
That much. It's always kind of interesting because this has to be like the only sport where the fans are dressed exactly like the pros are. Because, like, I mean, you know, like every once in a while someone's going, "Oh my gosh, it's him!" And I look over, I'm like, I have no idea who that guy is. And you know, like, if I saw, like, you know, I know obviously what Tiger looks like and Fowler and Bubba Watson. I mean, there's a few guys I could probably recognize, but as far from that, I mean, you know, I could see just an everyday Joe walk by and I could be a pro golfer and I have no idea. As opposed to a football player or NBA player, you pretty much know what's going on.
That's funny. I think that's pretty good. That's right on the money. We actually watched a guy go by today, and I know golfers pretty well. And I said to Marcel, I was like, I don't know who that is, but he was really small in stature. He was like, I mean, I'm serious. He might have been 5'5" and 145 pounds.
Sure.
And I was like, do you believe that guy right there is a world-class golfer? You know, I mean, it's unbelievable.
They're all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, Justin Thomas is not a big guy. Even Tiger Woods, who looks so big on TV, if you see him in person, he's not like 6'4". Like big, like athletes that look big on TV, are usually big, and like 6'4", 6'5". Well, not like Tiger's not. I mean, Dustin Johnson's a tall guy, but he's a thin guy. So you're right. It comes in all different shapes and sizes, and well, the guy that's been the right shape, the right size, and the best golfer on the planet for a long time, Tiger Woods, is here and ready to play at the Players' Championship. What do you think? From I know you're not like this huge. I tune in every week for golf, but what's your take on Tiger, the comeback he had last year, and what it means for him and everybody else watching golf going into this year?
Tiger's just, you know, obviously he's captivated the golf audience. I mean, he's captivated really not even the golf audience, just sports in general. You know, it's a guy where me personally, I tune in and watch him every single time just because I want to see what he's going to do. And it's not the fact that it's not like he's playing that well per se. I mean, you know, he hasn't won, I feel like, in a while. Is that correct to say? I mean, I don't remember seeing Tiger Woods on the podium.
He won at the last event of last year in Atlanta, and that was he finally got to the winner's circle.
Okay, but I'm saying just from a perspective of where golf is such a crazy sport now where it feels like anybody can win it. You know, like I'm not going to go on a whim and say I think Tiger's going to win this Players. I mean, it's really, I feel like, an open field, and especially this golf course. So it's just something with Tiger, man, and it's hard to put it into words exactly why it is, but the dude has just, and he's still doing it. He's captivating everybody, and I'm sure a lot of the people here, you know, when Tiger starts playing, are going to go follow him and watch him. You know, I mean, he's probably going to have the biggest gallery. He's going to have the biggest crowds and everything like that. And it's a guy who's not necessarily playing like number one in the world, but it's just, you know, people want to be in the presence of greatness.
Yeah, and he is, and he does that. And I don't know if there's – people will talk LeBron, but I don't think there's an athlete that does it more for his sport than Tiger Woods.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think there's ever going to be another Tiger Woods again? And I mean, you know, I don't mean from a black golfer, but I just mean from a perspective of a guy that can captivate the sport so much that can be a world, wide name.
Yeah, I don't know, because he was so born and bred in the role. And this day, we've seen, well, keep this in mind. Tiger Woods has created an entire generation of golfers. Like Michael Jordan created Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Understood?
Yeah.
You know, like he created that whole next generation. Like even LeBron James just said it. He just passed him and he wanted to be like Mike. And Tiger Woods did that for the entire sport of golf. And so what he did was he put such a focus on the sport of golf. And so many people now said, hey, I got to do this and this and this, and I got to hit the weight room, and I got to hit the ball 400 yards, and I got to work at my craft, and look at all the money I could make, and all those things that Tiger now has created. He created all his competition that he's currently competing against for the most part.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think he will also create the next Tiger, if you will. I don't think there'll ever be anybody like Tiger Woods. His dad had a golf club in his hand at 2. It was a very unique situation with his dad and the way he trained him to become this kind of golfer. And then he lived up to it. And he did things that nobody's ever done. And he went through a stretch in 2000, 2001, 2002 that will never, in my opinion, be duplicated. It just won't. So save for the 5 years of controversy and health problems, I mean, Tiger Woods, in my opinion, would have already obliterated all these other records, including major championships of Jack Nicklaus.
Okay, Brent, but let me ask you this. So you said it yourself. You said Tiger Woods is the MJ of golf more than likely. I mean, Jack, the Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus is pretty good too, from what I've heard. The little name drop. But so let's call Tiger the MJ of golf. Okay, and then you mentioned, well, MJ created Kobe. Bron too is a big proponent of MJ creating him as well. Well, who's the Kobe in golf right now? Who's the LeBron James of golf right now?
Yeah, well,
if you were to say it,
the problem is there's too many of them.
Okay.
They've got LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Greek Freak, James Harden, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Now, listen, I still think LeBron James stands out above those. I think Kobe Bryant stood out above those. But my point is they have Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka. I mean, the list goes on and on. I could sit here and name them. And then the other thing that happens in golf is it morphs into the old guys still have a chance. Phil Mickelson, the Jim Furyk's of the world. Vijay Singh almost won last week. He's 56 years old. So it's a very unique sport in that sense. Hey, Kuz, dial up some reaction from Tiger today during a news conference. We'll share more of this. But let's talk about Tiger on putting, because that's really been the Achilles heel so far early in 2019. If he's going to win, he's got to start making more putts.
You can only swing or make the movement as good as your body's feeling. And I was starting to get a little stiffer and tighter, and unfortunately I was hitting the ball halfway decent, but I wasn't hitting it hard. I was just plodding along and just kind of getting around. And as my neck got a little bit tighter, I didn't feel comfortable with my putting, but my putting was uncomfortable going into that point, and it just made it worse. I had Matt take a look at it. I've seen Matt out here the past year because he works with JT a lot, and I've played a lot of rounds with JT, either practice runs here or at home. And Matt has seen my stroke enough. So I wanted him to take a look at it and see what he thought of where my setup looked like now versus all the times that I've putted well, and I've putted well with different postures, throughout my career. I've done different things, and but I wanted him to take a look at it, and then he mentioned a few things, and as I started to feel a little bit better this week, or this past week, then the putting definitely freed up.
Well, let's see if it frees up so he makes some putts this week. Listen, it's all about the same thing. There's two things that allow people, I think, to win golf tournaments on the PGA Tour. They're all good. Now, listen, you can have a bad week driving the golf ball, hitting the golf ball, chipping the golf ball, getting stuck in the sand, whatever it might be. But if you look at the end of the week, guys that win golf tournaments usually made almost every putt from 10 feet and in. And 10 feet is not a small putt. I mean, 3 foot, that's small. 10 feet, like you and I, we're probably like 30% from 10 feet. These guys, when they win, are like 85, 90%, and maybe even more. Sometimes they'll have perfect records inside 10 feet. Part of that's the greens are so true, so if they get it on the line and their stroke is right, the ball's going in the hole and they know it in the first 2 feet. And so the other part of having that good of a mark from 10 feet and in is your ball striking and getting the irons close. If you're 25, 30 feet away all week, you're not making birdies. If you're 10 feet away, you're probably making a lot of putts and making birdies. So we'll see if Tiger Woods can get the irons close and make some putts. And who he was talking about was Matt Killen. Tiger's been teaching himself basically the last year and a half on this comeback. Hasn't really had a coach, but he did have Coach Matt Killen take a look, and that's Justin Thomas's coach as well. So played a practice round with Justin Thomas today here at TPC Sawgrass. Just 9 holes for Tiger Woods here on a Tuesday at TPC. More to come from the Players Championship. We'll hear more from Tiger Woods. We'll set up this week at this beautiful venue here in Ponte Vedra Beach. But next, we get back to Nick Foles. We talked to Nolan Carroll, who played with Nick Foles back in 2014 when he had 27 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. We start way back as we look into the career of Nick Foles, coming up next on ESPN 690.
It's Golick and Wingo.
Boston was a pit of misery outside of the Celtics for decades in terms of winning. Okay, you had the Celtics and you had everything else that was kind of a big bowl of crap. These sports fans in Boston, they really have no idea how good they have it, and I wonder what it's going to take for them to understand the embarrassment of riches that has come their way.
Golick and Wingo, weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Hey, it's Bill with Bill Fenwick Plumbing. If you've ever had a leak under your concrete slab, then you know how much it can increase your water bill or even your electric or gas bill if it's on the hot side of your plumbing system. Slab leaks can be costly, but luckily they are no match for our Golden Plunger service. If you suspect that you have a broken water pipe under the slab, have our team of professionals come out, locate the leak, and help you get your plumbing back on track. If you'd like to schedule a service call or would like some tips to determine whether or not you have a leak, visit BillFenwickPlumbing.com.
As we reach our 67th year of serving the Jacksonville community, we are grateful for all the support we've received since our founding in 1952 at NAS Jacksonville. Today, ViStar still holds true to our military roots and is honored to provide ongoing assistance and financial education and to sponsor and participate in more than 200 events and charities each year. We thank our military and veterans for the sacrifices they've made for all of us and our community for putting their trust in us. ViStar Credit Union. We never forget that it's your money. Insured by NCUA.
The spread and that college-style offense. Listen, in 3 years, you might see the Big 12 be run by the NFL because it's the exact same kind of offense that's going on here.
Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on ESPN 690.
Now, back to Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
We are live at the Players Championship, Tuesday of the Players. Of course, round 1 begins on Thursday. Tiger Woods doesn't tee off until 1:30 in the afternoon. Thursday is going to be a busy day. Just to give you a little bit, I think from what I've heard, now nothing is locked down just yet, but it looks like Nick Foles will fly into Jacksonville Wednesday evening and meet the media and the fans and everybody else on Thursday morning. And I still think there's an idea to get him out to the Players Championship if time allows Thursday afternoon, but that might have to wait even until Friday potentially. Brent Martineau along with former Jags player Austin Lane live at the Players Championship. Our coverage all week long brought to you by the law offices of John Phillips. And right now we're pleased to be joined by a Jacksonville guy, really Clay County guy. Don't mix up that. A lot of pride in Clay County. Nolan Carroll from Green Cove Springs, played at Clay High School, of course, and played with Nick Foles for a season back in 2014 and maybe even a little bit of 2015. I think Nolan's down in South Florida right now. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we're trying to find connections to Nick Foles, and you were one of the guys that came to mind. Give us your thoughts on Nick and also your thoughts on him landing in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I honestly think this is a good fit for Nick, and I'm definitely happy and proud of him because a lot of people tend to forget about 3 years ago, everybody counted Nick Foles out. When he got traded to St. Louis and he signed his deal and then he ended up not performing as well. Everybody thought, oh, man, this isn't a good quarterback. He's just a system guy with chip, this and that. And Nick drowned out all that noise and ended up getting a second chance in Philly and was able to show what he was about. And then he got another chance the next year and showed that he can really carry a team. And the thing about Nick is he's all about quiet confidence, but you can just see it on him. He's just, ice cold. He's just calm, cool, and collected. From the time that I spent with him, he's a real – he is actually a captain. He leads by example. He's a man of God. He always puts his team first, and those are the qualities that you really look at in a player and as your quarterback. And like I said, I'm very happy for Nick. He's had a different road than a lot of other quarterbacks, so I'm glad that he's getting his just due and his recognition.
Hey, what's up, Nolan? Austin
Hey,
Lane
what's going
here. What's up, man? One of the things you're hearing about with Nick Foles is his leadership. as a guy that shared the locker room with him and everything, would you consider him more of like a rah-rah, kind of get in your face type of guy, or is he more of like a cool, calm, collected, lead by example type player?
He's both. There's been times where I've seen Nick just been calm, cool, and collected, try to get everybody to settle down, calm down, and put drives together. And there's been times where I've seen Nick, rally the guys up and tell them, hey, look, this is important. We got to come out. We got to score on this drive. We got to make something happen. I've seen it from about 5 or 6 games in 2014 where it just looks like, man, how are they going to get out of this? And Nick somehow pulled it off. And I think the best memorable game for me with Nick was actually when we played Jacksonville, the first game of the season. It was my first game playing for Philadelphia, and we were down 17-0 going into halftime. And we're going to the locker room. We're getting booed by our own fans. Next, I can hear Nick kind of in the background on the other side of the locker room, just saying, "Hey, man, we got this. Don't worry about it. We're going to be good." And then, come out there and shoot, we scored 31 points in the second half. So it's one of those things. When I first saw Nick and I saw that performance, I thought, man, this guy is special.
Clay High School grad, former Maryland Terp, former Miami Dolphin, Philadelphia Eagle, Dallas Cowboy. Nolan Carroll with us here on ESPN 690 on a Tuesday afternoon, live from the Players. By the way, Nolan, appreciate your patience. It might be a little breezy at times out here at the Players. I know you missed this, right? I mean, you got to get up here, or you don't hang out in South Florida this week.
I know. I should have, came up there, but I had my golf tournament a couple weeks ago, and actually the weather was pretty nice and it's beautiful. It's always good to get back to Jacksonville, man, and just see how the area has grown and see old friends. So to me, Jacksonville, Green Cove Springs, Fleming Island all have a special place in my heart. But you guys are toughing it out up there.
Well, this isn't toughing it out, man. I can guarantee you that. It's awesome. 2013, by the way, was the year Nick Foles went 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I know this has taken you a while back, and you're on the defensive side of the ball, but you already have recollected some of the memories of Nick Foles. I mean, he comes into that next year, and I think that was your first year, so 2014 in Philly, and
yeah.
What were the expectations must have been huge, and the reason I bring that up is because, well, now the expectations are going to be big in Jacksonville. He just signed he will sign an $88 million deal worth $50 million guaranteed, so the expectations go sky high. Do you remember anything about the offseason, training camp, anything like that with already big, lofty expectations every time you step on the field in Philly, but how he might have handled that?
Yeah, I think he handled it well, and if you can kind of remember that 2013 season, I believe Mike Vick, he had just got hurt. He pulled his hamstring, and Nick Foles came in and just started lighting it up. And
yeah.
I think the Oakland games when he set the record for touchdowns in the game, I think he had 7, I believe. I'm not sure, 6 or 7. But then ever since then, he just took off, and he just had staggering numbers that year. So the next year in 2014 coming in, I just remember, can Nick Foles lead this group? Mike Vick had, he went and signed with, I think, Pittsburgh or the Jets, something like that. So they basically gave it to him. They put it all in his hands and said, hey, can he lead us? And we had a good season. It was 10-6, but we didn't go to the playoffs, and it wasn't how it was last year, comparable as far as standards. And then we just had a whole bunch of different stuff going on, guys getting traded, shipped away, LaShawn, D-Jack, and then, we had Sam Bradford come in, and then we just swapped trades, I guess, with Nick and Sam. So it was hard for him to kind of adjust, because he didn't have a bad season in 2014. It's just that things didn't go his way. And I think him going to St. Louis and then Kansas City and having those learning experiences with different quarterbacks and seeing different things, and to come back to Philly, and he really picked up kind of where he left off. And it wasn't any pressure on him when he came back to Philadelphia, because Carson was the man. And when he came in, it was, okay, well, let me just play the way I know how to play. There was really no pressure on him to perform, and he's done an excellent job. You've seen how he's done, and every time people have counted him out, he finds a way to win, and that's what you want from a quarterback. People hate Tom Brady because he always finds a way to win, and I think that's the same with Nick Foles. I don't necessarily think people hate him, but he's ready for the expectations that are in front of him.
Yeah, very good. Good insight on Nick Foles, by the way. And I know that's going back. Heck, I don't remember what the heck I was doing in 2014, so I appreciate you bringing up some of these moments with Nick Foles and how you remember him in the locker room and on that football team in Philadelphia. To that point, more of a general question, Because in Jacksonville, and you know the NFL, you've paid attention to it, and I'm sure you pay a little bit of attention to the Jaguars at times. Blake Bortles has had mixed reviews in Jacksonville. 5 years of it. Obviously goes to an AFC Championship game, had a good year too, promising, and then he's been maligned at times and really beat up by the national media and even some peers in the NFL over this 5-year stretch. But he was always, in my opinion, chasing the respect of the guys in the locker room because of the noise outside and because of some of the lack of success. How important is it in a room, in the locker rooms you've been in, to know that that guy is the guy and we want to follow that guy? And obviously the hope in Jacksonville is Nick Foles is that person I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it's very important for everybody in the building, not just the players, but the staff, the front office, everybody to rally behind your guy. And I don't think that was necessarily the case in Jacksonville. And there was mixed reviews in the locker room with Blake Bortles. He had times where he was good, and he had times he wasn't as good. And I think everybody looked at that defense as, oh, they're only good because the defense carried this whole team. But Blake had some good games. I was able to catch some games just being down here in South Florida. They showed a couple Jaguar games, and he wasn't as bad as everybody says he was. I thought he was decent, but I just think it goes to that factor of him trying to get the respect of everybody. So he's trying to force things on the field, and that's when you start making mistakes, is when you start forcing things. And I don't think with Nick coming in, he's going to force anything. If it's there, he's going to throw it. If it's not there, he's not going to throw it. He's not going to make those mistakes to really put your team in a bad situation. Nick's a very great game manager. He's a very smart quarterback, so he understands what defenses are trying to do. He understands what defenses are trying to do to him, and he'll see that, he'll exploit it. And I think that with the guys that Jacksonville has and the guys that they're probably going to end up getting, through the draft, they're going to surround him with any weapons. The first outlook is obviously going to be defense because they lost some key guys, but they're going to get some guys on the offense to really help him, and they're going to tailor that offense to Nick to become successful. They're just going to take things from Philly that he did well. He's going to bring some things over too. They're going to work together, and they're going to get it right.
Yeah, work with John DeFilippo, of course, is a former coach in Philadelphia as well. Nolan Carroll with us as we let you go. I want to just catch up with you. How's life? I saw you last year at your golf tournament. I missed it this year. How's the foundation? Give us an update on what's happening with Nolan Carroll, life after football in the NFL.
Yeah, actually, it's cool. I can't complain about it at all. It's funny when you're in the game, you're so concentrated on just football. You don't get to really take time and enjoy the other things outside of a football life. I've been able to hang around my family a little bit more, learn some more about them, been able to hang out more with my son and see him grow crazy. It's funny how fast he grows and how much he's able to learn every single day. And also with my golf tournament, I just had it a couple weeks ago, which is another success for being the second one. It was popular. It was a hit, and everybody's excited for next year as well. So I'm glad I was able to get that accomplished. Well, my mom was able to get that accomplished, so I have to thank her. And
she's probably listening. Make sure you give her credit.
Yeah, I know she has to be listening. But the Nolan Carroll Foundation is all about the kids. It's giving back to the kids, giving them an opportunity to show them that there's more besides just being an athlete, being a rapper, being an entertainer. They can be whatever they want to be. They can be a real estate agent. They can be a doctor. They can be a firefighter if they want to. All the old dreams that we used to have as kids of being, I'm trying to bring those things back and let these kids know that your education is key, because there's certain things in life that don't last forever. Football doesn't last forever, and everybody wants to be a football player. They want to be a baseball player, basketball player. But those things are so short-lived. You only really, honestly, 3.5, maybe to 5 years, and then after that, you're probably still in your early 30s, and you still have your life to live. So I'm just trying to teach those kids about certain tools that they need in their life to be successful and to be able to manage stuff on their own, and then eventually pass that down to the next lineage. And I think we're starting to do a great job of that. We started initially last year funding some camps, ID Tech and Data Busters. So that was good, and now we're looking forward to doing it again this year. And so I'm really excited, and I'm excited to get in front of these kids and just give them something that they can take away from me when I'm speaking to them, even if it's just one thing that can help them the rest of their life. I'm good with, I'm content with, as long as I can do that.
Good for you, Nolan Carroll. We appreciate you giving back to the Jacksonville community, even if you're now down in South Florida. And always check back. Love to have you in the future on ESPN 690. Appreciate your thoughts on Nick Foles.
Yeah, definitely, man. Let me know, and I'll come on anytime you want. You know you got me.
Absolutely. Nolan Carroll, former Clay High star, played for the Miami Dolphins, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys as well. Joining us talking about Nick Foles, teammates with Nick Foles back in 2014. Some good insight on the leader, the man, the quarterback of Nick Foles. We'll have more conversation about Foles, including Coos, with a little, he's playing tour guide. What's up with that?
Yeah, man, he's trying to be famous, man, trying to be a viral sensation. I see him.
Visit Jacksonville, should hire Coos.
Yeah.
More on that, and Sal Palantonio in a bit, who wrote a book with Nick Foles. Coming up on Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690, live from the Players' Championship. Coverage all week brought to you by the law offices of John Phillips.
Sí, very intrigued by the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Is an unhappy Thon Maker the answer? 53% of the audience said yes.
Thon Maker is going to excite anybody who hasn't seen Thon Maker play, correct? Like, that guy walks into the room.
How'd we get him?
Wait a minute, that guy's great. I would draft him first overall every time.
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKB Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi, developing story. Linebacker Anthony Barr not heading to the Jets after all. He changed his mind about signing with New York as informed the Vikings. He'll be returning to Minnesota. He'll sign a 4-year, $67 million deal with the Vikings, includes $33 million guaranteed. ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting former Vikings running back Latavius Murray intends to sign a 4-year, $14 million contract with the Saints. Deal shakes up the running back market and means Mark Ingram will not return to New Orleans. ESPN's Berger McFarland disagrees with the signing.
I think Mark Ingram fits what they want to do better. Like, Murray is a thumper downhill, but if you think about Ingram in the screen game and some of the things that he gave the Saints, I like Ingram as a better fit than Murray.
Bills intend to sign veteran receivers Cole Beasley and John Brown. Coaches at elite schools including Yale, Wake Forest, Georgetown, Stanford, UCLA, Texas, and USC among the 50 people charged in a nationwide college admissions bribery scandal. Authorities allege the coaches accepted bribes in exchange for admitting students as athletes regardless of their ability.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of your car care needs. We're close, convenient, and known for our guaranteed everyday low prices and excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You watch Action Sports Jacks on CBS 47 and Fox 30. Now Action Sports Jacks is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
What's going on, everybody? Brent had a quick run out, so I have the keys to the car now, and hopefully I don't drive it off the road. But it is 4 o'clock, so you know what that means. Coos, hit me with it. Looks like he's got about a 3-wood here. Gonna need you to grab a drink, get a shot, and tip your star tenders. It's in the hole. That was my TPC Sawgrass golf announcer voice. Hopefully that came through well on the radio. Coos, since Brent's not here, let's talk a little bit, man.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't get to really talk about it, just me and you. So this whole thing on Twitter that I saw this morning, it's getting retweeted. You're starting to become a viral sensation. What was the inspiration? And please share with the folks, if they don't know what I'm talking about, what exactly we're talking about here.
All right, so I'll play it for them first, and then I'll explain the thoughts behind it.
Yep.
What up, Nick? Welcome to Jacksonville, and I hope you enjoy your time here with the Jaguars. I compiled a list quickly of things you need to know before you get here to Jacksonville. Blake was known for the beach bars, so you may want to avoid getting that reputation, though there are some good bars there. If you're down in San Marco and get stuck by the train, you might as well just cancel all your plans for the day. You're going to be sitting there for a while. If you have to cross a bridge to go to work, you're most likely going to sit in traffic, and considering the stadiums next to bridges, you're going to be sitting in some traffic. They say there's an end to the construction on I-95, but I've been here 10 years and it hasn't been over, so there won't ever be an end to it. Publix chicken tender subs. Trust me. It is pretty impressive, though, that in Jacksonville you can be driving for an entire hour and still be in the city of Jacksonville. Minibar Donuts or Sonati's, though I guess that might be an off-season thing for you. There's going to be these little lizards running around. They're harmless. And then there's the occasional homeless man that's going to be holding a rattlesnake, but no big deal. Nothing to worry about. Look up flood zones. That actually is a really good tip. Like the past 2 years, we've needed to know that. And in the summers, it's going to rain every single day. At some point, it will rain, but for only about 30 seconds. Then you're good to go.
So I'm going to be honest. I'm not mad at any of those suggestions, especially like the whole check your, the flood zones and everything like that. That's something people kind of take for granted until it actually happens.
I was going to say, that's actually something you really do need to know. Like, I was trying to, poke some fun, but I was like, that's actually an important one.
Without a doubt. But yes, fine work on that. I have to ask you, though, as far as the food choices, those are two restaurants I've never heard of before. Can you please fill me in a little bit? Because obviously I like to eat.
Oh, Sonati's and Minibar.
You haven't heard of that?
Oh,
never heard of
dude,
it.
you're
Darren
actually...
Rovell just tweeted out the donuts.
Minibar is so good, man. Those guys love me too, and they're really close to where I live. So I'll go out there all the time, and you get they're little small donuts, so you don't feel bad about them. But then you eat like 15, and you're like, oh, I'm a horrible person.
And then you hate yourself.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Kuz, you don't look like a guy that a donut place would love.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit bigger, I guess. But Nicole and I love going to Minibar Donuts. I'll get some coffee. We get some of their crazy donuts. The Fruity Pebbles donut is definitely my favorite.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And Sonati's also another good one.
Oh yeah.
So did you do the happy hour horn?
Yep, we already did that. Don't worry.
You already did it.
Yeah.
And he did Kuz's advice.
Yep, we did that too.
Tour guide Kuz.
Yep.
By the way, Kuz, saw Nicole again.
Oh yeah.
Today, and you did too. Obviously, you were out here this morning.
Yep, we had lunch.
And by the way, props to Nicole. I might have to get her a gift. And don't. This is nothing. Not trying to be creepy here.
A little creepy.
No.
Little creepy vibe.
Just I'm in line. I went to the souvenir shop, the fan shop, which is right over here, and I know they sell out of some things, so I wanted to at least take a look. Plus, we get 20% off with our media pass in there.
Oh, score.
Right? Well, I saw Nicole, and she was at the register, and she might have given me a little bit more of a discount.
Okay.
So she already gave us what I have on right here in the player. Remember?
Looking good.
Dropped
it
off.
Yep.
And that gave me a little bit more of a discount. So I don't know how you feel about Nicole, Kuz, but right now I really like her.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's all right.
So here's the thing, Brent. I guess I should ask you now, because if you go to like a rock concert or to like a festival or something like that, there's one rule. Oh, there's a couple rules, but one of the biggest rules is that you never wear the band that you're going to see. You never wear their T-shirt at the concert. So is it frowned upon at all to wear like a player's shirt or a player's I guess you'd call that a windbreaker, or what is that kind? I mean, it's like
a quarter zip.
Okay,
come on, dude.
A quarter
cool,
zip.
Dude.
A quarter zip. I've never heard the term quarter zip until today. Okay.
I thought you bought your clothes at what's that name of that place? Lulu.
Old Navy.
Oh,
Lululemon though.
Lululemon?
Lululemon. Foles, hit me up. Foles, hit me up, please. But anyway, so is it frowned upon, Brent, to wear a player's shirt at the Players Championships? What I'm saying.
Nah, it's really not.
That's cool.
I do think about that stuff. Like, we don't cover the Jags and wear Jag shirts. No, I do for All Access. They want us to wear a Jag shirt, but you don't really go to the Jags and wear a Jag shirt.
Okay.
But in golf, it's a little different. Like, I've gone to Augusta and you wear the Augusta logo.
Mm-hmm.
And now what you don't do is you don't come here and wear an Augusta logo. They don't like.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of like, you're in their house, man. Go put a Players Championship logo on.
Okay.
They don't love I don't think they like that. Now, yesterday I had like an Atlantic Beach Country Club shirt on, which had the turtle. And I don't think they care about that, like TPC Sawgrass or Southampton. Or you can wear a logo from another golf course. But I don't think they love, because what happens here at the Players Championship, there used to be this complex And this is why one of the reasons, seriously, why I've heard they moved it to May. But they used to have a complex because in March, everybody would come here to ask questions about Augusta in the Masters because it's coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I get that.
And it's the first major. And so everybody would say, hey, how do you feel about Augusta? How do you feel?
Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
It's time for some straight talk. Picture this. Your favorite team is playing. You're streaming the game. 10 seconds left. Your team shoots. Oops, your data runs out.
Look, don't let that happen. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get 25 gigs of high-speed data, all on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
Join Team Straight Talk and get unlimited talk and text plus 25 gigs of high-speed data for just $45 a month.
Straight Talk Wireless, everything for less, only at Walmart.
First 25 gigs at high speed, then 2G. See terms at straighttalk.com.
Pros know doing it right the first time helps keep you on schedule and keeps your reputation intact. Lowe's is here to help with the supplies you need, ready to go when you are. Whether finishing up a property or updating one, stop in now and get toilets starting at just $88. And get bath faucets starting at $24.98. If you buy 3 or more, get 10% off. Save yourself some time by ordering ahead at lowesforpros.com and picking up your order in store. For your next job and every job after, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Peace of mind. It's one of the most important things we can have, and sometimes the most elusive. I'm Mark Anajar from the Law Office of Anajar and Levine. If you've been involved in a car accident, call the law offices of Anajar and Levine at 904-600-4000 for a consultation.
Office in Jacksonville.
Whether you're buying a new or a pre-owned vehicle, your experience should never be anything less than exceptional. Hey everybody, it's Brent Martineau of Action Sports Jacks. And if you're considering a new or pre-owned vehicle, I encourage you to go see my friends at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. I'm so impressed with how they treat their customers. They're good people. No one wants to be haggled or pressured at a car dealership. And my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville understand that. And they emphasize a no-risk, no-pressure approach. Their team will get you into the right car at the right price. And if for any reason you are not completely satisfied with your new or pre-owned vehicle, you can bring it back to Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville within the first 7 days for your money back. Take it from me. We drive a Hyundai in our family, and I encourage you to visit JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com to schedule a test drive. And you, too, will be impressed at how they treat the customer. Exceptional service at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. When you get to the Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville showroom, make sure you tell them Brent Martineau sent you.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved, and 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
If Dell Demps had moved Anthony Davis as general manager for the New Orleans Pelicans, he would have been fired. You know, you had teams in smaller markets on the phone calling him, imploring him not to capitulate to the demands.
The Stephen A. Smith Show, weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m. on ESPN 690.
This is Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Well, I guess we lost you for a second. The wind knocked us off, so apologies for that. Between the wind battling, it's a breezy day. It's a beautiful day, but it's breezy. We're actually in the shade, so it's pretty cool where we are. here at the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass. We're the welcome area where all the fans are pouring in. I will say this, Military Appreciation Night, of course, John Pardee will play right next to the famous and most iconic hole in golf, the 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass. There are a lot of people here. I thought this was a busy Tuesday at the Players Championship. Of course, Monday you can't come. It's closed to the public. They did that years ago, and that's because there's just a sprinkling of people, and I think it was a good move on their part, kind of keep that day for the golfers. But Tuesday's pretty packed house. I don't want to say packed. That's a little over-dramatic, but definitely a pretty good crowd here at the Players
I'll tell you what, too, there's a lot of kids skipping school today from what I can garner.
Well, Duval County's on break.
Okay, well, never mind then.
And next week, St. Johns County's
Go on
break.
as you were.
So my kid might be skipping school
spring
later in the
break?
week.
What is it?
Yeah, spring break.
Okay. Already?
You'll experience that when your kid gets to like 6.
Well, see, I'm sorry. In Wisconsin, we never had spring break until my senior year of high school. So.
Like never?
No, we didn't have
What'd
spring
you
break
have,
until
a winter break?
No. We just got done early, I guess, with school. Like in the summer.
So you went when you got Christmas break.
Yeah, we had Christmas break.
And then you didn't like have a vacation week
until
the end of the year?
Nope, till the end of the year, until my senior year of high school. Then we got a spring break, and then that was the only time we ever had it.
Well, how about this? I'll give you one.
Go ahead.
Now, when did you get out of school? Usually in high school.
What time?
Like early June? Late May?
Late May, it would have been.
You did?
Yeah.
You got out that early.
Yep.
Well, you know, if I'm in Wisconsin, I want to enjoy every 60-degree plus day I can
sure.
get, so I don't blame them for that.
Well, you have to remember, spring right now, it's still like 20 degrees, so it's not, I mean, there's nothing really to do with spring break in Wisconsin anyways.
But here's the deal for us. You know, it's really different, and we're, I think, in New England, one of the few that do it this way, I think. But we have a February break, week off, and an April break, a week off.
Spoiled.
Well, spoiled, not really. We get out of school in like June 23rd.
Ooh, that's rough.
Summer's over, man.
Yeah, that's rough.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and then so down here, and like when I went to Ohio, like the kids now, obviously they're getting out right around Memorial Day, and which is perfect for my schedule because June and July are the slower months for me. So if the kids were out the entire month of August like they are in New England, I mean, I wouldn't even see the kids for the month they're out in August. So it works really nice. But isn't that crazy that we got 2 weeks off? I don't know if anybody else in the country does it. I think some parts of New England do it that way.
I've never heard that.
February and April, and most other people do 1 week in March. And I'd never even heard of what you just said. Wisconsin doing no spring break for a long time.
Yeah,
but now they do.
We had a lot of crazy things at our school that a lot of schools don't do. Like, for instance, did you guys have, we'll get into some different topics here, but did you guys ever have merit where you could actually have a job, like a part-time job, and that was actually one of your classes?
You know,
get out?
They do that now, I think around here, a co-op.
Co-op, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think they might have had that, but I never really even considered anything like it, so I can't tell you if they did and if they do now. You know, there are things like my wife, where she went to school in Columbus, Ohio, in high school, they could leave at lunch and go like wherever to eat, McDonald's or Burger King.
That's what we could do too.
We couldn't do that.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that.
We used to drive 15 minutes to Taco Bell every single day.
Really?
Yeah, during lunch.
Yeah, we could not do that. And we eventually, I think my senior year of high school, I think we had like Taco Bell and Pizza Hut come into the cafeteria. Like I think they had them in.
Don't even tell me that, Brian. You're just gonna make me upset, man. That's
that,
awesome. No, that's awesome.
Good? Yeah,
that's fantastic.
But you know how long the lines are? If you have like, if you can go get, you can go get like a chicken patty, and green beans in the lunch line, or you can go to Taco Bell. Well, all 500 kids in the lunchroom are going to Taco Bell.
No, for sure. Sure.
It was a little. I remember the lines being super long, and I think that happened my senior year as well. In high school. All right, welcome back to the Players Championship. Let's talk a little bit about the Florida Gators right now. They start spring practice today. Dan Mullen talked yesterday on a variety of issues, and I want you to hear from Dan Mullen as we kick off a little coverage about the Gators. We talked last week about Florida State and what they've been doing, and we talked Hornibrook yesterday as well. But the Gators now embark on an interesting year for me because Dan Mullen exceeded expectations last year in year one. Man, did he ever. He galvanized everybody in Gainesville. Finished top 10 in the country, folks. I mean, who would have ever thought that? He did better on the recruiting trail. He got more out of Felipe Franks than anybody would have imagined you could get out of Felipe Franks. He did a lot. And now the expectations grow a little bit. The support is sky high for Dan Mullen, it's a good place to be. Florida needed that. It had been a struggle this decade until last year, so that was fun for Florida. Still, even at 6th in the country finishing in the polls, they feel like there is a big separation between the Alabamas, Clemson, and I would say even Georgias of the world before Florida can get up to that stage. And is this the year they do it? And can they do it again with Felipe Franks, or do they go in a different direction with one of these young quarterbacks? Dan Mullen on Monday talking about the quarterback spot.
I'd love him to just make some, be able to understand what's going on and make quicker decisions. Which again gets down to non-spectacular plays. I think one thing he really bought into at the end of the year was his ability to play physical. Like I said, we don't at the quarterback position. You're not looking for I don't need a dynamic runner or a great runner, or even any bit of runner. Just want somebody that is going to have kind of a toughness edge to him. And I think you saw as the year went on. He kind of played with some toughness, and I think it upped his confidence, it upped the team's confidence in him, it upped everybody's level of play when, every once in a while he goes and he drops his pads on somebody to run into an end zone, and that lifts everybody's spirits on the team that this guy's leading us with, and he has a toughness to him, both mentally and physical toughness to him. I think that's such a huge part of the quarterback position. To do that and have that edge to you. So I think that that helped him. Obviously, we don't usually hit the quarterbacks that much in the spring, so I don't know that he'll really have a factor of doing that during the springtime. But hopefully it just raised confidence, and then in his confidence helps him be more comfortable in the offense, being a quicker decision maker. Because if you're a quicker decision maker, you know where you want to go with the ball. You got a chance to be more accurate. Now you're make good decisions with great accuracy, you end up becoming a pretty good quarterback.
There's Dan Mullen, especially talking about Felipe Franks. I thought he got so much out of Franks, and good for him, sitting here talking about Blake Bortles for these last 5 years, I felt like we were almost talking about Bortles at times when Felipe Franks was in the conversation in Gainesville. It was like, yeah, well, he's got this, and he's a nice kid, and you want to do all this, but I'm not sure if he's got enough game. Well, Dan Mullen did wonders with Felipe Franks last year. You got to give him a ton of credit, and you give the kid credit too. He battled through some things. There was even times where you could tell he was frustrated with what he was hearing from the outside noise. That's a lot to ask for a young man, I think. And I think what Dan Mullen just said, and really where Blake made the most hay in terms of fan support and in the locker room support, is the showing the toughness. Yep. When a quarterback can show the toughness, and Felipe Franks did that, and now we just see where he can go. I still think he's an okay player. Does he have another gear? Can he get him to another gear? Well, the quarterback position. If you don't, they'll find another one, especially in college.
Well, finding another one, too. Emory Jones is a player who Coach Mullen really talked about, spoke really highly of. He's putting the time in the offseason and whatnot, watching a lot of film, getting his mind right. Also said that, and I quote Dan Mullen here, which I don't agree with here, but he said he added some girth.
Girth
to his
great
frame.
Word.
Yeah, great word. Brent, why don't you just say muscle? Like, what would you rather have me say? Yeah, Brent added some girth, or Brent added some muscle?
Well, if you said I added some girth, you're right. If you said I've added some muscle, you're wrong, because I've definitely got a little girth going on here.
So I don't know. Take it how you want it from the whole girth perspective. If Emory Jones actually added muscle, or if he just got fat. But anyways, another guy to keep in mind too, especially in training camp. There's going to be competition. Obviously, I believe Felipe Franks is definitely the guy right now. But you never know with the emergence of Emory Jones. It's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely is. Let's talk more of Florida Gators and hear from Dan Mullen as he kind of set the scene for the spring. Spring practice gets underway today for the Gators, and we'll check in down in Gainesville. Of course, we've checked in before with Tate Casey and Will Salmon from The Athletic, and we'll continue to do so. Tough week to do that with all the Jags talk and the Players' Championship going on, but spring practice takes you all the way through the early to mid part of April, and the orange and blue game, of course. I still think those spring games are the most overrated deal in the world in terms of trying to gather information about what your team might look like in the fall, but they're fun for the fans, and we'll see how that part goes. As for Dan Mullen, he talked about the injury bug and how they are health-wise and who's in, who's out here in the spring for the Florida Gators. Take a listen.
Yeah, there'll be a couple here and there, guys banged up. We'll see. And guys still getting through some little strains and stuff during the off season. The only guy I don't expect Moon, McDowell, and Dunlap would be probably the three that are be doubtful to get back in the spring. Everybody else might be limited here or there, but those guys are doubtful to get back this spring.
All right, so a little bit of who's in, who's out. No major deals when it comes to that for Dan Mullen as he continues to build in year two. And year two is something Mullen talked about, just like we were saying. Where does it go from here for Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators? How much can they elevate their program in this second season under Mullen, who is back for a second stint, if you will, in Gainesville?
We're going to do what our guys do well, and I think as the year went on, you saw that when we really found out about the team. Hopefully we know more about the team and where we're at. It's a brand new team, though, this year, so we still got to learn about what this year's team's going to be about. I just think, and you got out there on day one, there better be a lot more carryover. They know how to practice. They know what we expect from them, but they also have an idea within the scheme. So there'll be a lot of young faces out there, guys in new roles, that maybe hasn't been in that part of a lead role before, but it's the foundation of the offense and defense should be a lot of carryover and should allow you to accelerate the learning curve and the comfort level within what we're doing on both sides of the ball a little quicker.
All right, Dan Mullen talking about the Florida Gators again. Spring practice starting up today and going for the next month or so leading up to the orange and blue game. Gators with a lot of momentum right now from the recruiting world, from last year's success, and now we'll see how they do. They kick off earlier than everybody else. That game moved up in August 24th, now against the Miami Hurricanes, game being played down in Orlando, and there'll be the feature game that Saturday night on ESPN. I believe it's a 7 o'clock kick for that one, which also creates another bye for the Florida Gators, too, which I know coaches love that stuff. I don't know if you can have too many of those, so you can take a look at and fix some of the mistakes and get the practices going a little bit more.
Especially, talking about the Miami team, too, who we don't really know what Miami's going to bring to the table, but it's still going to be a really big game for Florida. Obviously, coming off that big win against Michigan, I get it. It's the bowl season, so maybe players aren't playing 100%, and, some players were out for Michigan, but it was still an impressive victory. So Florida's going to look to obviously beat Miami here, start the season off strong. And, hey, anytime you play in the SEC conference, every single win is going to be, comes at a price. So hopefully they can get together.
Yeah, it's going to be an unbelievable opening game for all the area teams, really, if you think about it. Florida State, it's a critical game for them to get off to a good start. They're playing right here in Jacksonville against Boise State. If they lose that game, whoa, right? I mean, can you only imagine the noise coming out of Tallahassee and beyond around the Florida State program and Willie Taggart? And then, like you said, Manny Diaz, who knows what to expect from Miami? I mean, he's behind the 8 ball a little bit, late resigned from Mark Richt. So Manny Diaz steps in there and now has to play catch-up. They've got talent down in Miami, but how much talent do they have, and what does their team even look like? I don't even think anybody in Hurricane land knows that. And then the Gators will have a little bit more pressure on them in that game because of the success that they've had. They'll be expected to beat the Miami Hurricanes and probably beat them pretty good. So a lot to talk about college football-wise as we get rolling on into the spring games, and we'll do much more of it from Gainesville to Tallahassee, even up in Athens, and, of course, down in South Florida as well. When we come back, you know the man, Sal Palantonio, will join us. More Nick Foles conversation. And a little bit later on the show, I want to talk about Blake Bortles. What now for Blake Bortles? How will you remember Blake Bortles in a Jags uniform? But up next, live from the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass, we stick with some football. Nick Foles is coming to Jacksonville. What does it mean, and what can Sal Palantonio tell us about the pulled off the Philly special a couple of years ago to become the Super Bowl MVP? That's next, Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and while we're still digging into the reported details on the Nick Foles deal, experts around the league are saying that the move had less to do about putting points on the board for the Jaguars offense. Mike Golick Jr. says this was definitely a tip of the cap to the other side of the ball.
If we just eliminate some of those instances where our offense puts our defense in bad field position spots, we have a defense that's good enough to be a Ravens-type defense that can elevate you over that hump.
And what's been the only real shocker so far since the madness began, Anthony Barr, Minnesota's all-pro linebacker, had told the Jets he intended to take their big money offer, only to turn around a few hours later and take it back. He'll be staying in Minnesota this year. Former Jaguars defensive back Tayshaun Gibson didn't spend too long on the unemployment line. We're reporting now he intends to sign with the Texans, keeping him here in the AFC South. And speaking of the AFC South, the Titans will have a new number one receiver when the league season starts, and thy name will be Adam Humphries. Get the latest updates on NFL free agent signings by going to ESPN690.com and clicking the link for the latest NFL headlines.
It's hard to beat that new car smell, especially when it's a brand new Hyundai. Hey everybody, it's Brent Martin of Action Sports Jacks, and I think we can all agree there's something to that new car smell you just can't beat. You also can't beat the exceptional service at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. It's a brand new dealership here in town, and my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville live by giving you the most superb car buying experience you can get. No one likes to be haggled or pressured when buying a car. The staff at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville understands this and emphasizes their no-risk, no-pressure approach. They'll help you find the right car for you at the right price. And if you are not 100% satisfied with your new car, you can bring it back to Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville within the first 7 days for your money back. The Hyundai you want, the service you deserve, all with the limited lifetime warranty that's good anywhere in the United States. Schedule a test drive at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com. And make sure you tell them Brent Martineau sent you.
The 4th annual Touch a Truck event is coming March 30th to the Regency Square Mall parking lot. We're offering First Coast families the opportunity to climb all over trucks and vehicles that are normally off limits. Guests are asked to bring non-perishable items to be donated to Feeding Northeast Florida. For more information, visit ESPN690.com or find us on Facebook.
Juice, Mom. Juice, juice, juice. Mommy, why are we going to the store? Mom, I want juice. Mom, juice, Mommy, juice, Mom. Juice.
Your child will have different needs at different stages of life, and that includes the car seat. That's right, the car seat. A car seat isn't one size fits all. You have to have the right seat based on your child's age, weight, and height. See, car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. But there's a website that gives you all the information you need. safercar.gov/the-right-seat. You'll find out about types of seats, when to have a seat rear-facing, when to switch it to forward-facing, when it's time for a booster seat, and when it's time for your child to ride in the back seat with a seatbelt. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio prediabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Oye, amigo, it is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Did James Harrison ever tell Ben Roethlisberger to put down the beers and get in a little better shape? Please say yes.
Ben's in good shape.
He is?
Ben looks good.
If you say he looks good, he looks good. That's the deal. We think he runs like a skyscraper, but if you say he looks good, that's fine by us. We'll let it go.
That's a good thing he ain't paid to run. He paid to throw.
The Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
You watch Action Sports Jacks on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jacks is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios, here's your host, Brent Martineau.
All right, welcome back live from the Players' Championship. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane. Sal Paolantonio from ESPN scheduled to join us in just a little bit. Hope to have him soon. If you were watching on Facebook, YouTube, on Twitter or Twitch, apologies, we lost the power for a moment on the video side of things. So we're figuring it all out. Hey, you know what? You just roll with it, especially when you're on location. The wind's howling at times. I really hate for the listener if the wind's blowing so much that you can't really hear us, but we're trying to block as much of it as we can. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's fun being out here, but some of the elements you have to deal with at times. So hopefully you're enjoying the coverage, and hopefully you'll come on out to the Players' Championship, enjoy the beautiful weather. You know, it's actually chilly where we are because we're not in the sun. Like yesterday we were sweating in the sun.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like both extremes, you know, the past 2 days. But honestly, I would take this over being in the sun all day because yesterday I was sweating, as you saw, Brent. So
absolutely,
this is all good over here.
We got Ballin' and Fallin' coming up in a little bit. Another tussle from the NBA with a player and fans. That's not good. So we'll dive into that. We also want to get your thoughts, and I'll share some of your thoughts because I put it on social media. You know, Blake Bortles is either going to get traded or released or whatever. I think released. And in the next 24 hours, I believe it will happen. And that means 5 years, and the Blake Bortles era is over. What do they mean to Jacksonville? You know, and how do you remember Blake Bortles? And we've had a lot of comments, good and bad, and on the field, off the field. That's what happens when you have kind of the face of the franchise for 5 years around here. And there were a lot of lows, but a couple of highs in there too. Thinking about some of the good plays and then sometimes not so great plays of Blake Bortles. To that point, we're going to get Sal Paolantonio from ESPN on in just a bit, we hope. But what are your thoughts on Blake? How do you think he'll be remembered around here? And I always hate saying it that way. He's not dead. He's just probably going to play football somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, do you want it from how I'm going to remember him from my perspective for a second?
Absolutely.
Quick story. So I'll never forget. So, you know, obviously, like when I stopped playing football and everything, like I watched the Jacksonville Jaguars because, you know, I bought a house in Jacksonville. So, you know, those are the games that are on, and obviously I still hold Jacksonville dear to my heart. So obviously I was cheering for the Jaguars. I still had some friends on the team and whatnot. So it would have been the 2016 season. And, you know, he obviously threw a couple pick sixes during that span in 2016. And I was never the fan to yell at a TV, and I was never the fan to really, you know, get intense or anything like that. I mean, I would just casually watch the games or whatnot, and if they lost, that sucked, and if they won, that'd be awesome, you know. I'd never be like, I guess you'd call it a diehard. Well, I remember for whatever reason being invested in 2016 season a lot, and it was one of the first times I was actually watching the game with my son, who at the time I guess would have been like 2.5 years old. So he's watching the game with me, and I want to say the Jaguars were playing the Houston Texans, and it was in Jacksonville. And for whatever reason, I kind of lost it during the game because Bortles threw. I want to say it was like his second pick six in like 2 games or something like that, where he threw a pick six. And for whatever reason, I just lost it. And I go, "What the F?" You know, but obviously I didn't say F. I said something else.
Oh, you said
it. Right in front of my son. And you know, I think my wife was upstairs, and my wife goes, "What? What was that?" And she comes running down. I'm like, "What do you want me to do?" He threw another pick six. Like, it's not my fault. And then she just kind of looked at me like my wife did, and she's just like, "I don't even know who you are anymore." So, like, I guess I could blame Blake Bortles for turning me into, I guess you'd call it a fanatic more than a fan. But, you know, Blake was really never a guy I had a lot of interaction with, obviously, because by the time he got to Jacksonville, I was on my way out. So I never got to interact with the guy a lot. I saw him in passing a couple times, would say what's up, you know, and he was really cool to me then. But, you know, take the quarterback play aside for a second, and you want to talk about someone as a human being. Every interaction I ever had with Blake Bortles, I mean, he was a cool dude, you know, and I think the entire city of Jacksonville would agree. And that's why, you know, everyone's like, well, it's time for Bortles to move on, and I get that. But I think there's also a part of the fan base who's going to be sad to see him leave, not really per se as the player so much as just the person, you know, because he was a guy who was active in the community. And then, granted, he's got this, you know, reputation of going to the beach bars, but also with his charity work as well. You know, so he was a guy who was always in the community. I felt like he treated Jacksonville with respect. I felt like he loved Jacksonville a lot, and that can't be said for every single quarterback, So sometimes quarterbacks aren't in the community, they're not active, and Bortles was always that type of dude. So from just a person perspective, I always say the ultimate compliment is to have someone come up to you and say, I want to have a beer with you. I wouldn't mind having a beer with Blake Bortles.
Yeah, well, he's definitely that guy. And I do think, by the way, the whole beach bar thing always got played up way too much. I listen, did the guy go have a drink or two or whatever? He lived at the beach. I think it became legend at times. I think there were probably times, but it evolved into something that I thought was really unfair, at least from everything I could gather. And we looked into it. But don't you think in this day and age, if he was out on a Wednesday night, a Thursday night, in season, that we would have pictures all over the place and we would have been able to find, I just thought it got a little carried away with the whole beach bar scene. Sure, the guy's 23, 24 years old, 25 years old, likes to go out. He's single at the time, all those things. I can see him out there, but I think there's a difference between going out there, potentially in April than there is in the middle of a season on like a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, a game week.
And it's another thing too, and I'm not saying it's right, but there is when it comes to being the quarterback, it's almost like a double standard.
Yeah.
Hey, I was no stranger to the beach bars myself when I played for Jacksonville Jaguars.
That was okay.
I was probably out there more than anybody when I played for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Actually, made a lot of friends and whatnot. But, when it comes to the quarterback, obviously there's that double standard because, A, you're the face of the franchise. B, you're considered the general, the leader of the team. So did some of that scrutiny with him going out to the bars and whatnot, was it kind of overblown? I honestly think so because guess what? I know other quarterbacks that have gone out to the bars too. But, Jacksonville just happens to be maybe a smaller city and whatnot, especially, when you're at the beach. There's not a lot of places to go at the beach. There's a select few. So from that perspective, I feel like, the whole drinking thing got overblown a little bit. There's nothing wrong. Either he goes out to the beach bars and has a couple and was social, or he has a couple at his home. What's really the difference at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, Blake Bortles, I think, I think it's going to be the end of the Blake Bortles era in the matter of hours probably in the next day or so. And we did this story for television, but I think it will translate okay for radio as well. So I wanted you to take a listen to kind of the look back that we did on Blake Bortles' 5-year career in Jacksonville.
The Jacksonville Jaguars select Blake Bortles.
2014 was now a long time ago. The next franchise quarterback hopeful was drafted 3rd overall. Blake Bortles at times looked the part.
Robinson right there, wide open, touchdown, Jacksonville.
In 2015, 5 touchdowns against Tennessee en route to a franchise single-season record of 35 touchdown passes. That was second most in the NFL that year. He also was sacked 51 times and threw 19 interceptions, most in the NFL that year.
And it's intercepted. Josh Norman has a Panther pick six.
That season told the story of Blake Bortles' career in a Jags uniform. Durable. He never missed a snap due to injury in his entire Jags career.
On the run, needs the 26. He's got his receiver. It was caught. It's a touchdown.
A playmaker at times.
First down, Bortles setting up screen. He's intercepted. And it's going to be a pick six for Chris Jones.
Bortles also was a catastrophic negative play in waiting. 74 interceptions and 28 lost fumbles. Outside of the polarizing play, everyone wanted it to work for BB5. Bortles' persona fit the franchise and the city. A millionaire QB who could be funny and seemed to relate to those who paid to watch him.
I don't know. Yeah, I gotta be a better tackler. I just work here, man. Oh yeah, it's really weird. But it's it's a football town that loves their Jaguars, especially when they're playing well, and I don't have a problem having a conversation with somebody at the door.
He was the significant other that you broke up with every other month. You wanted it to work so badly, but deep down, you kind of knew it wouldn't. Bortles was the QB punching bag for opposing players and analysts, the NFL punchline at times. But it was Blake who punched back last year, a December stretch of football that was his best ever.
Floating one, he is open, and that is a Jacksonville touchdown.
Then, outdueling Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh, and almost Tom Brady in New England in the AFC Championship game.
Still with Bortles. Bortles lofts it, and it's caught by Mercedes Lewis.
That led to a much criticized contract extension, one validated in the first month of this season.
Bortles with time, lofts it, wide open.
Everything changed in Kansas City, a 5-turnover game that sent this season into a spiral as another fluttering pass was picked.
And that led to an interception.
In his career in Jacksonville, Bortles survived 2 coaches, Tom Coughlin, 3 coordinators, and just about as many offensive line combinations as turnovers he committed. Bortles didn't have a lot of consistency around him, and he never could find it as a quarterback either. 5 years after it started, the Blake Bortles experiment in Jacksonville is over.
Yeah, and we expect that to become official, of course, in the next day or so, or sometime this week at the latest. By the way, you can catch the story, the video edition of that, on our YouTube channel, Action Sports Jacks, on Facebook as well. It's all over Action Sports Jacks, ESPN 690, Action News Jacks. So Blake Bortles' career in 5 years, and we'll continue to talk a little bit more about Blake. I think especially more tomorrow when I expect the news to happen. I really expect we'll find something for sure tomorrow when the league year begins. But more from Blake, and we have a lot of comments on social media, and we'll share some of those throughout the rest of the day today and also the rest of the week when it comes to Blake Bortles, because there's a lot of good things, and it'll always be linked to that AFC Championship game. It'll always be linked to the kind of the cool guy here in town. He fit. I've really said this before. Very few players fit a city all the time. Blake Bortles fit this city, man. He was perfect for this city. If he could have just had a few less turnovers and a few more touchdowns, he would have been here a long, long time, and this place would have really embraced him. More to come on ESPN 690. We're trying to catch up with Sal Palantonio. We hope to do that in the next segment, but stay tuned. More Nick Foles conversation and more from the Players' Championship on TPC Sawgrass.
Built with the biggest names in sports, all on one radio station. Golick and Wingo, Dan Lebitard, Stephen A. Smith, and Action Sports Jacks, Brent Martineau, every afternoon. Plus, Sports Center updates at the top and bottom of every hour. And major breaking news in sports when it happens. Make us your only button for sports. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. The all-new ESPN 690.
Every day.
Every hour.
Every minute.
Every second
is an opportunity to change your life. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, don't waste time to get the help you need. Call the 24-hour confidential problem gambling helpline at 888-ADMIT-IT. That's 888-ADMIT-IT. Your hope for a new tomorrow. All services are free to Florida residents, including treatment.
This message is sponsored by the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Why do local women watch Action News Jacks? Because the unexpected can mess up their day. They like to know about the rain, the recalls, and school changes because their families are depending on them. They need more than just crime stories. They want to be in the know with real investigations that truly impact them, not something they can just Google. Is that selfish? We don't think so. Their time is valuable. In fact, more women are now watching Action News Jacks than any other station.
Sports Center updates at the top and bottom of every hour. And the latest breaking news in sports around the clock. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
Hey, it's Mike Golick from Golick and Wingo. You're listening to Action Sports Jacks with our friend Brent Martineau on ESPN 690.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane. Justin Kuzart back there pushing buttons. Kuz in the house. Hey, we've got some news to pass along on the NFL, just the latest in terms of the rumors and what's coming out. By the way, Hall of Fame game will be the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons up there in Canton, Ohio. Maybe next year we get the Hall of Fame game because of Tony Baselli. Let's hope that happens down the road. Field Yates is saying there's an AFC North team that's inquiring about Odell Beckham Jr.'s availability. Would you surmise it might be the Steelers?
You would think it would be the Steelers, but the way the Cleveland Browns are spending, man, and stacking up their team, who knows?
Adam Schefter also saying that LaMarcus Joyner, 4-year, $42 million deal to stay with to go to the Raiders. Apologies, former Ram LaMarcus Joyner, Florida State Seminole, going to the Raiders. Roger Saffold, Rams offensive lineman, is going to the Tennessee Titans. How good is that offensive line in Tennessee? They keep stacking up. They want to play power football, and Derrick Henry's got a line to run behind, doesn't he?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
So those are some of the bigger deals happening right now. I'm trying to catch up on just some of them. There's so much going on. But the Anthony Barr story is really the most fascinating of the free agency period. There were reports where the Jets had to deal with him, and then he ends up staying in Minnesota. He either got cold feet or he changed his mind or the reports were wrong or something. But he ends up staying in Minnesota. What do the Jags do next? And I will tell you this. The Jags, I don't think they make a splash here. I don't think there's another splash. Nick Foles was their splash. I really don't see Golden Tate happening. I think that someone's going to overpay for Golden Tate, and I don't think it will be the Jags. So I don't think in the next 2 days you're going to hear of a Jag acquisition. Mm-hmm. I do think once we get closer to the weekend and early next week and some time goes by, you are going to start seeing the mid-level free agents. And you could still see that. What I'm talking about is not a blockbuster. And all the money going out to these guys, the Jags are not doing that with anyone else, with the exception, I say, of potentially Golden Tate, although I still feel like that's not happening. I don't feel like the Jags will want to ante up the amount of money that I think Golden Tate is going to demand, seeing the dollars fly around the way they're flying around in this free agency period.
There's a few names out there that I'm kind of intrigued by, I guess you would say, as far as offensive weapons. Let's start at the running back position here. Tevin Coleman's a guy we've been hearing, a name thrown out a lot.
That would be a splash play.
It would be a splash play for sure. I think the way the NFL's built now, unless you have like an Ezekiel Elliott, and even Todd Gurley was getting spells for a while towards the end where, they had C.J. Anderson come in for him a little bit. But I think that was more due to injury than anything. But, you see a lot of successful teams, like the Patriots, where they have James White as that third down back. Even like the Saints, they had Ingram. Obviously, Ingram's going to be gone now, but then they had Alvin Kamara to spell him a little bit. So I think any time that you can get like a third down back in an offense, it's only going to help you, especially with Leonard Fournette's, injury history and whatnot. Maybe keep him on a pitch count a little bit, So obviously, when you're talking about a third down back, Tevin Coleman is the premier name in that group. Honestly think that the Falcons are going to try to keep him. I thought he did pretty well last year as a featured back. It's not really his game, but he stepped up from when he needed to be. And especially with the price tag, too, that could be pretty expensive. But another guy who I find intriguing that no one's really talking about, and I understand that he's probably tied to the team, but you never know, Darren Sproles. How do you feel about Darren Sproles?
I feel like he's old.
He is old. He's coming off an injury, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, again, the name excites me, but so like Adrian Peterson's name's being floated around with Jacksonville too.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, the name, that's a good name, but I know that they're old guys that don't have the game they once did, so you don't
True.
you get lost in. I mean, they just, the Jamal Charles thing that they tried middle of the year. You're like, oh, okay, maybe that could be something. It doesn't usually work out.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. With Sproles, would obviously be a prove-it deal. So I think you could get him on the cheap.
Yeah,
but he'd be.
I'm okay with trying stuff like that.
Yeah,
by the way.
he'd be an interesting third down back. It's not a guy you have to put really on punt returns and kickoff returns. You don't have to worry about that. Just put him as a third down back. Get him, maybe 10, 12 plays a game. Because once he gets the ball in space, Brent, he is a game changer. And I understand he's up there in age and whatnot, coming off injuries. But when he was healthy, even the past year, he still showed some promise. So from the running back position, those are the only two names that kind of stand out to me. Obviously, there's Mark Ingram. I think Murray actually just got signed by somebody, so I think Latavius Murray might be off the table.
That's one that we talked about last year.
Yeah,
I think it was when he was a free agent, and this year too. That's a guy that's, if you look at some of the numbers Murray's put up, I kind of like the idea of him. I think he's a good pass catcher.
Yeah,
and I think he was like his average yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken, was like 4.1 or something like that last year in somewhat limited reps. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Those old guys, the running back position can be found, right? And it can be.
True.
It's all about if the offensive line can do their thing. And we know this. Leonard Fournette, he's the workhorse.
Yep.
So he has to stay healthy. He has to play well. They've got Thomas Rawls right now. They'll bring in somebody else, and then do they find, whether it's Sproles or not, to your point, do they find that change of pace guy?
Well, and that's
quick,
exactly what they need.
You know, they need that third down. T.J. Yeldon was a good third down back. Now, he left here unheralded, of course, but he was a good third down back because he knew pass protection, and he could catch, and he could fill in the running game. He was a very valuable player. If it didn't end so poorly, I'd probably advocate for T.J. Yeldon to come back.
Sure. Absolutely. And with Thomas Rawls, too, you know, he's more like a north to south runner. He's not really a third down back. He's a guy that's going to lower his shoulder, try to get you those 4 or 5 yards a gain. So I think they're set at that position, but it's always nice to have a change of pace back, especially with offenses at the NFL running. And I think with the offense that the Jaguars might implement too, where I might get into a little later, of offenses that Foles has really succeeded in, actually has a lot to do with Chip Kelly, not just because he was the coach for 1 year, but actually because the Super Bowl as well when Foles was an MVP. I'll get into that later, though.
That somehow relates to Chip Kelly?
It does relate to Chip Kelly.
Really?
And, yep. Brent, I was doing some homework last night, man. I had a little free time.
You teased me a little bit.
Yep, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But
do you have a brother?
No, I'm an only child.
Oh, on Twitter you might, because the A-Train at 25 tweeted at us.
Okay. what do you have to say?
The A-Train 25.
Interesting.
He was talking about the situation with Bortles and how he'll be remembered in Jacksonville. Right now we are pleased to be joined by ESPN's Sal Paolantonio. Sal, welcome along and aboard the show. You might hear some wind because we're at the Players' Championship live at TPC Sawgrass, so hopefully you can bear with us on that. But thanks for giving us a buzz.
Love that place.
Yeah, hey, we love it too. How can you not? Well, you wrote a book in the last year with Nick Foles, Philly Special, and I think did I hear that there's an audio book now available for it?
There is an audio book, Philly Special, the inside story of the Eagles won their first Super Bowl championship, and we put Nick Foles on the cover of it because Nick Foles. Without Nick Foles, that Super Bowl doesn't happen.
Absolutely, and you know, obviously we know his play, and he was so big in that game. He's a Super Bowl MVP. But I want to take what you just said, and can you expand on that a little bit? Because I think what you mean is he meant a lot more, not only just on the field, but inside that locker room.
And in the town itself. Nick Foles is beloved here for a lot of reasons. Obviously, being the Super Bowl MVP for the first Super Bowl championship for the Philadelphia Eagles, a town that had been starving for one for so long, but also because of the kind of person that he is and the kind of leader that he is. You know, Nick Foles is, in my view, one of the best players ever to play the game in terms of his leadership ability. He's a real salt-of-the-earth guy. He gets along with players in meaningful ways. He's faith-based. He is family-based. And if he does, in fact, sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars, what looks like it's going to happen, the people who follow the Jaguars and are close to the Jaguars, and Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone and that whole locker room, they're going to get a high-quality guy who is, I believe, going to be a winner for that team.
Brent Martineau along with former Jags player Austin Lane here on ESPN 690 with ESPN Sal Paolantonio, who recently wrote a book about the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles called Philly Special. You can check out the book. That's been out for a bit.
Sports Jacks on ESPN 690 gets you close to the action
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau, and it's Action Sports Jacks on the road on ESPN 690, live from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis.
With the Rams cheerleaders here in Atlanta, you guys gonna go to the aquarium or anything?
Live from the Super Bowl in Atlanta.
With John Franklin Myers, the former Stephen F. Austin Lumberjack, going for Lone 40 man of the Super Bowl, man. I'm proud of you.
Live from Daytona International Speedway at the Daytona 500.
This is ESPN 690.
Hey, welcome back here. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane. I think we still have Sal Palantonio with us. I think we lost for a minute. The wind is blowing and obviously blew the signal right off here at the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass. So thanks for hanging. I didn't know what happened either, Sal. We're just rolling with the punches here, so I appreciate your patience. But I don't know if you heard my last question, but basically we've heard about how good of a leader he is. You just talked about that too. How long do you think it will take for the city of Jacksonville, the fans, to kind of feel his presence here, when he officially signs?
Right away. I mean, it's not too many times you get a Super Bowl MVP walking through the door, especially at the quarterback position. And Nick is a very charismatic guy in a very understated way. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's definitely not a look-at-me guy. He believes in sharing his success and taking blame for failure. He really is a special, special guy, and Jacksonville's going to love him. And I'll tell you what, I think he's going to have instant success, and he's going to transform that offense. He and John DeFilippo, your new offensive coordinator, who I know very, very well. No doubt they'll run some RPOs, some run-pass options, and he'll make the offensive line instantly better because he gets the ball out Tom Brady-like. 2.5 seconds from snap to throw. And you won't have to protect him. He's not going to stand back there and pat it and pat it and pat it. He's going to get rid of the football. He's got good touch on the ball. He's going to make everybody around him better.
That's good stuff, and I think that's information and kind of music to the ears of Jags fans. I mean, this is an offense that, listen, I've been around here more than a decade, Sal, and it's been kind of boring for the most part. It had its moments, of course, a couple of years ago where they finished top 10 in the league, and Blake Bortles had a very nice run at times, especially in December and through the playoffs. But overall, it's been a predictable kind of boring offense. And the one thing I continue to hear about John DeFilippo, who you mentioned, the Jags' new offensive coordinator, is he is fun. Guys that we've talked to that have played under John DeFilippo, is this a fun offense? It'll open up a little bit. Sure, everything plays off the play action. The entire league plays off the play action. You want to be able to run the ball. But DeFilippo's offense, I think, will be entertaining. Do you agree?
Well, John has a photographic memory, and he's super brilliant. It was John DeFilippo who really worked out Carson Wentz at his pro day at North Dakota State and convinced the Eagles to draft Carson Wentz. And it was John DeFilippo who really resuscitated Nick Foles' career and season during the Super Bowl championship year with the run-pass option late in the playoff run. So John's a super smart guy. He's not afraid to take risks. He's a great coach of quarterbacks. But he won't have to do too much coaching with Nick Foles because they're really on the same page. And everything that they've done in the past, I'm sure that they will bring to Jacksonville. It'll be a much more wide-open offense. What, you scored 15 points a game last year?
You got that right.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you can get up at about 22-23, if you can increase it by a touchdown the first season, that's going to be a dramatic improvement. I look at free agency, and I always look at two things. Are you making a dramatic improvement within your team, and are you making a dramatic improvement within your division? And I think within your team, yes. I think the only thing that's different 2 years ago when you're on the doorstep of the Super Bowl is that the division has gotten a lot more competitive. Luck is healthy. Frank Reich is with him in Indianapolis. Mike Vrabel has brought a sense of discipline to Tennessee. Houston is obviously better than they were a couple of years ago. So it'll be a much more competitive situation that Nick Foles is walking into. And luckily you have a guy, and Nick Foles is not a rookie. He's a 30-year-old man, and he's been through a lot. And there's not much more you can throw at him. So the big thing to watch is snap, throw. ball out, 2.5 seconds, going to make your offensive line better, going to make your wide receivers better, going to make your running game better.
Sal, from a standpoint of a head coach, I feel like Nick Foles is a great decision maker and he has accuracy. So those are two key things in the RPO offense. Now, I look at the Jaguars offense here, and I don't necessarily see all the cogs yet, all the key pieces to run the RPO offense. Do you think it could be some kind of hybrid offense where they still run that power run game a little bit, or do you think they're going to go right away, run the RPO kind of what they ran in Philly a little bit, assuming that they get the right pieces in the draft and maybe in free agency?
Well, if you study what the Eagles did in the championship season, it was an amalgam of both those things because you had LeGarrette Blount on the team. You had Jay Ajayi on the team. So you could run a power running game. Now, you're not going to run a power eye, but you could have a power run game. You could have two tight end sets, and you can run the ball when you need to, Tom Coughlin style or Doug Marrone style, for sure. But you got to have the other thing to offset it, and I'm sure that they'll go out and get more pieces to try to augment what they want to do. So you went back and you said, he's been very accurate. The one thing with Nick now, especially if you go back and look at it, he has thrown some bad interceptions, and there have been times like in that New Orleans game in the second quarter. I know he wants to have that throwback, because they were up 14-0, and that was a big momentum changer in that divisional round of the playoffs there in New Orleans, allowed New Orleans to come back. So there have been times when we're not talking about Blake Bortles we're just saying there have been occasions where Nick will throw a pick.
Sal Paolantonio with us here on ESPN 690 in Jacksonville. We're live at the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass, and we appreciate Sal checking in on the Nick Foles front. Obviously, Sal Paolantonio knows the Philadelphia Eagles just about as good as anybody out there, knows Nick Foles and that championship team from a couple of years ago, and recently wrote a book called The Philly Special, and now it's available as an audio book as well. Sal, we're going to wrap up. One more question for you. You mentioned he's beloved in Philadelphia. How difficult of a decision do you think this was for the Philly organization, or was there one? They've got a fantastic young quarterback, it looks like, in Carson Wentz as well. And the piggyback to that question, Sal, is do you think the fan base is torn at all between Carson Wentz and Nick Foles?
Well, I can tell you flat out the fan base is torn. And Nick Foles, in my view, and I know there'll be people that will disagree with this, I think Nick Foles goes down as the greatest player in Eagles history. I mean, nobody else won the Super Bowl MVP. You could argue Chuck Bednarik, but that's the list there. And Chuck Bednarik played in the early 60s. So, of this generation, Nick Foles is the greatest Eagles player of this generation. He came through in the clutch. He beat Tom Brady 41-33. The supposed coach of the year, Sean McVay, with Jared Goff, scored 3 points against pretty much the same defense. So that was a performance for the ages. And it will go down as, in my view, the greatest performance in Eagles history. And I was just down in Clearwater, taking in some Phillies. And, of course, you're talking to fans. I'm always talking to fans. And the one thing they all wanted to know is, Sal, where's Nicky Touchdown going? Where's St. Nick going? And, people love him and will always love him here. He'll never have to buy a meal in Philadelphia area, that's for sure.
Awesome stuff. Very good stuff from Sal Paolantonio. Nicky Touchdown, St. Nick. He's headed to Duval. That's where he's going. He's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar for the next 4 years, and hopefully he can bring the same success to Jacksonville as he brought to Philadelphia. The book is called Philly Special. Check it out. And, Sal, point people in the direction. Can they get it just about anywhere?
Oh, yeah, it's all over Amazon for sure. Now that you got Nicky Touchdown in, you're going to have to learn all about him, and that means you're going to have to go out and get my book for sure.
We are doing that, without a doubt.
Yeah, and the other thing it means is I get to come down to the Marriott Sawgrass and hang out with TPC and hang out and watch a few Jaguars games this year. I'm looking forward to that.
Hey, By the way, we just had a flyover here, Sal. We're bringing it all for you. We've got the wind, we've got the golf, and we've got a flyover right during this interview.
It was timed perfectly. How about that?
Hey, Sal, thanks for joining us. And I'm going to get you on again down the road, and I hope you can join us because I do want to ask you about Tony Baselli. But this one was all about Nick Foles. We'll talk some Tony Baselli down the road. How about that?
You mean Tony Baselli that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? That Tony Baselli?
That exact Tony Baselli, and that's why I want to talk to you more about it. Hopefully we can catch up soon.
Yeah, you call me anytime. Now that Nicky, I got more nicknames for Nick Foles in my back pocket. I'll bring out another one the next time you have me on, okay?
That's awesome. You're awesome, Sal. Thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
You got it.
Sal Palantonio from ESPN. How good was that on Nick Foles? Jacksonville Jaguars fans, if you want to get bought in on Nick, well, you just heard it from Sal Palantonio. He's all in on Nick Foles. Let's digest what Sal Palantonio said. Ballin' and fallin', stay in your lane, some golf talk, and more Jags football talk. Coming up here on ESPN 690.
WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.
Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park. The 2019 Harrell & Harrell Performance Studio is here, and it's better than ever. It's your chance to meet the personalities on the new ESPN 690. Sit in the front row and ask your questions to athletes in town, sports analysts, and experts. You'll be able to see them in person. It's going to be the best year yet. So listen to ESPN 690 for your chance to win your way in throughout the year. It's the Harrell & Harrell Performance Studio. Brought to you by Harrell & Harrell.
Hey, it's Bill with Bill Fenwick Plumbing. Do you have to wait a long time for hot water to reach your bathroom in the morning? Some of our customers have told me they turn their water on in their bathroom, go make the bed, brush their teeth, and finally the hot water reaches the end of the house. Not only does it waste water, but it also adds additional water and sewer charges on your utility bill. We can now install a pump that monitors your hot water usage daily and moves water down to that side of the house when you need it, without the wait. To schedule or find out more, call us or go to BillFenwickPlumbing.com.
It's time for some straight talk. Picture this. Your favorite team is playing. You're streaming the game. 10 seconds left. Your team shoots. Oops, your data runs out.
Look, don't let that happen. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get 25 gigs of high-speed data, all on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
Join Team Straight Talk and get unlimited talk and text plus 25 gigs of high-speed data for just $45 a month.
Straight Talk Wireless, everything for less, only at Walmart.
First 25 gigs at high speed, then 2G. See terms at straighttalk.com.
Golic, did you know that Gatorade Zero has all the same electrolytes but with zero sugar?
I did know that because I drank some Gatorade Zero after I ran 2 miles at the gym this morning.
2? Please, I ran 3.
Did I mention I also was on a 6 incline?
You didn't, but that's interesting because that's 2 less than I was on.
Were you also running backwards because I was?
No.
Gatorade Zero, all the electrolytes with zero sugar, so you can get more out of zero.
The best kept secret in tires is TireOutlet.com. Tire Outlet offers you wholesale prices with premium service. And most important, TireOutlet.com has always had a safety-first focus. With locations throughout the First Coast, check out TireOutlet.com today.
From the NBA to the NFL, we've got you covered. The worldwide leader in sports. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690. Back to Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Hey, welcome back here to TPC Sawgrass, the Players' Championship. We just had a flyover.
Man, I didn't know what was going on.
Of course,
there.
well, you know, I kind of forgot. Military Appreciation Night is tonight, and so it's right. If you're watching us on the video portion, it's some 300 yards behind us. The 17th hole is that away. I'm pointing behind us, but we're only a few hundred yards away. Now we've got headsets on. I don't know if they just played the national anthem and then had the flyover. They may have. We're not right. We can't see what's going on with the military appreciation, but it was scheduled for 5 to 5:30. So I don't think that was a practice run. Is my point. I think that was the full deal, which was awesome, but untimed for us. And You got a little bit of everything. Appreciate your patience, by the way. Been a little bit windy here at times at TPC Sawgrass, and knocked us off a couple of times, including that one time with Sal Palantonio, but he was kind enough to hang in there. And I'll tell you what, this is not a, hey, boy, did we just ask the greatest questions, and that was an unbelievable interview type of thing. This is not a pat on the back. That was a very informative interview from Sal Palantonio. If you wanted to get a glimpse of Nick Foles, we got one earlier with Nolan Carroll, who played with him in 2014. And Sal Palantonio is a Philly guy, you know. Yeah. And his strong comments about Nick Foles, I thought were, tremendous. Agree or not agree, his takes were tremendous.
No, he was very passionate. It's almost like they have like a timeshare together or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was very pro Foles, and hey, we'll have to see how it pans out in Jacksonville, but very high praise.
You know what's interesting? Here's the deal on Foles, okay? If you say, like, when Blake Bortles comes to town, right, and you say, oh, I can see he's a Jacksonville guy, he's a Duval guy, you meet him for a moment, you know, you hear him in interviews, and you're like, that guy fits in. You give me an athlete like, well,
I guess,
you know, even like Calais Campbell.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, Bryce Harper. Okay, that's good. Bryce Harper going to Philly, and you're like, I know what this guy has a flair to him, right? He likes to have fun. He'll be a little controversial at times. He's going to be but he's a star material. Mm-hmm. What I see from Nick Foles, outside looking in, never met the guy, haven't really covered the guy, from the TV interviews, from his play, from just what we've seen of him as a quarterback and in that role, I just don't get this, oh my gosh, we're going to fall in love with Nick Foles kind of vibe. This guy's going to be unbelievable. What a leader he is. And what a man. This guy's going to be all over the place in the community. And Philadelphia, of all people, the Eagles fans, he's beloved in Philadelphia. Now, I get it. The Super Bowl helps that. I understand.
That makes a difference.
but still, Philadelphia fans also smart enough. They've got Carson Wentz, too. You know? Yeah. They've fallen in love with this guy so much that they were some people willing to kick Carson Wentz to the curb for him. So my point is, I just don't get that feel from the outside looking in on Foles, and so that makes me very intrigued for Thursday when he gets introduced and when we start covering Foles and when you start hearing from him to see what this guy's all about and if that comes across. Now, every guy we've talked to about Foles also says it's kind of a quiet, cool demeanor, kind of almost unassumed.
Yes.
Which also makes it even that much more interesting and intriguing about his role in the locker room, that he can be such a good leader. You know, the two don't correlate to me, at least from my mind. And I'm kind of anticipating and waiting to see now what that looks like up close and personal.
Well, another big thing I took away from the interview too with Sal is the fact that the whole RPO offense, you know, Sal's very adamant that the Jaguars are going to turn it up a little bit. They're going to go with the more high, fast-paced offense as we're opposed to seeing, in Jacksonville. So something to obviously keep your eye on too, especially, I think Coughlin came out and said when we caught up with him, saying that, there are going to be some changes to the offensive playbook and whatnot. So it's interesting to see where they go from there as well.
Where did the sun come from?
I don't know. It feels good, though.
Now it's out. How about that? Now it's going to get hot. We've escaped the shade right now here at the 17th hole replica, which is kind of where we were on Friday, by the way. But people coming in and out for Military Appreciation Night here at the Players Championship. John Pardee, country singer, will be performing in about 20 minutes right there by the 17th hole. Let's get to ballin' and fallin'. We'll have a lot to catch up on now. But let's start with ballin'. What you got?
I got to go with Ronnie the Rocket O'Sullivan.
Where do you find these
he's done something. Brett, before you start hating, he's done something in his sport that no one has ever done before. The Rocket is the first to reach over 1,000 century breaks in the game of snooker, which is pretty impressive. What is snooker? Well, I'm glad you asked. Snooker is basically like pool. But the whole thing with the century mark is if you knock over 25 consecutive balls in the hole, you get a century. So there's been a reported around 20,000 centuries reported in tournament play when it comes to snooker. And now officially the Rocket owns 1/20th of all the centuries ever amassed. So Ronnie the Rocket, first guy to break the 1,000-century mark in the game of snooker. Ronnie, we're proud of you, man. You know me, I'm a giant snooker junkie, so I can't wait to watch him this up-and-coming season, Brent.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
I appreciate that. I mean, I wasn't going to live without that one.
We're covering all sports here at ESPN 690.
All right, I'm going to do a quick ball-in. Ball-in is the Ed White High School Commanders. Some of the folks some of the students from Ed White High School were out here yesterday at the Players Championship, and one of the kids, and I don't have his name, and I kind of wish I did. I definitely wish I did. Let's see does it say? Nah, I can't find his name, but he was juggling with Rory McIlroy out here. Did you see the video?
I saw that.
I
did see that. Yeah,
that was
impressive.
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he was good at it too, and I didn't know Rory McIlroy could do that too. So a nice little moment right around this area where we are at yesterday at the Players Championship. Rory McIlroy, one of the game's greats, mingling with some local high school kids from Ed White, and they had a lot of fun. Nice little memory to hang on to. That's what's cool about it. You know, I think we take this for granted sometimes. This is a massive global event in our backyard, and I think the Players Championship does such a nice job of making it feel like it's a massive event, yet it also feels like it's our hometown event. And that's a tough thing to do. That sounds like, oh, yeah, that's easy. No, I don't think it is. It's like making the Super Bowl feel like a Jaguars game. And you can't. Like, you couldn't do that. Nope. So I'm sure there's a joke to spin off that I just said, by the way.
I was going to say anything, Brent. You got it, though, man.
I was trying to think of one real quick, and I just couldn't come up with it that crafty and quickly. But anyway, the Ed White kids mixing it up and juggling a little bit with Rory McIlroy, I thought was a pretty cool moment. That's balling for sure, like really balling.
No,
hey, before we get to falling,
super impressive.
Gary's on the line. I don't want to keep him waiting too long, so let's get to Gary. He's been hanging on for a bit, wants to talk a little bit about Foles, and I think even Tiger Woods. What's up, Gary?
Hey, guys. Did Sal Paolantonio ever think of Tommy McDonald, for crying out loud? He did win the championship in '60 for the Eagles.
That was what? That would have been AFL?
I don't know. I guess before the merger. But, I mean, for talking about greatest Eagles, and not even mention Tommy McDonald, for crying out loud.
Pretty good.
Well, listen, I think his point was the fact that the championship, and that Super Bowl run and the MVP. And
I know. I just wanted to give Sal Paulo a hard time.
I know you did. Listen. It's tough to argue with Sal Paulo when it comes to Philadelphia sports. That guy knows it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, he does. Hey, I want to thank the Jags for signing Foles, because that's one less competition for the Dolphins to get Locke or Haskins. I'll take either one in the draft.
Hey, do you think, Gary, let me ask you this. You calling about the Dolphins quite a bit. Do you think the Dolphins will trade up to try to get Haskins? Do you think they have the capital and the wherewithal to say, I'm going all in on a guy like Haskins. I don't want to sit around for Locke?
It depends on what they're asking for at number 5 Tampa, as opposed to, I think, what Detroit wants at 8. But I think Floyd's is going to come away with one of them. You talk about Tiger, though. Brent, I know you know golf real well, and Austin probably to a degree, but I know you follow it a lot, Brent. No, I'm not trying to insult you, Austin, but I mean...
Oh, no.
Hey,
that was
Gary,
a compliment.
Gary, you just said you might know a little bit. That was a compliment.
Yeah,
he couldn't even make his way out here.
That was a diehard compliment, Gary. I appreciate it, man.
but Brent, I'm sure you know about, in '06 after Tiger got his knee operated on, the drug testing started on the PGA Tour. You know the whispers about Tiger and PEDs, and then his body started to break down after that. I'm sure you heard the rumors about that, right, over the years?
Yeah, you know what I think? I think the Tiger, when it comes to that stuff, I think will always be linked in terms of the way. You remember how, like, Michael Jordan, when he took the absence to go play baseball and got away from basketball, was linked to gambling?
Right.
I think it will kind of be like that, and I really don't know if it's the truth or not, and I don't know if we all will ever know.
But you know about the whispers on the tour, though, about it, though.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Gary. Yeah, I mean, he was talking. Obviously, that was a time frame too, and even back then, where the whole baseball stuff was going on, and Balco, and there were some rumors about Tiger Woods. The one thing about the PGA Tour, if you're a player, on the PGA Tour, your business does not get out there very often. They keep everything under wraps. You know how NFL players, Major League Baseball, everything's out there?
Yep.
And someone will find out, agents will talk, or someone will talk.
Yep.
That's not the case here. It's very few items that if you don't even know if a guy's suspended sometimes.
True.
I think they might announce that now, but they didn't before.
Yeah.
There have been some tweaks to it, but the PGA Tour keeps everything under wraps.
Unless your name is John Daly, you just get crazy.
Well, yeah, unless you have to. But hey, my point is, how many things happen to John Daly that we don't know?
That's a scary thing.
You know, that's the point. All right, time for Fallen. What you got?
All right, we got any dog sledding fans around here?
Yeah, this is a good crowd for dog sledding.
All right, well, Fallen. Yodam Haber, a musical composer and pianist from Wisconsin, had other dreams besides composing music and playing it, where he wanted to be a dog sledder, I guess you'd call it. Is that called a musher, Brent, I think, if I'm not mistaken?
Musher.
A musher, yeah. Well, why, I have no idea. He wanted to pursue that dream, but he did. So he took on the help of Blair Braverman, who's, I guess, a pretty famous musher woman, so I don't know what you'd call that. Musherman? Whatever. So everything was going fine. He was.
How did we get here on this show?
He was with Blair. Well, just wait, because it's Fallen, Brent. I'm getting to it if you let me finish. So everything was going great on their excursion until day 3, when he was staying at a lodge and the sled actually tipped over, causing the dogs to run away. Thankfully, he was fast-minded and actually grabbed the chains that were connected to a metal hook and tried to, wrangle the dogs in. Well, in doing so, actually ripped off his finger where it was only hanging by the skin, and that's not the bad part, Brent. So with this excursion, this dog sledding thing or whatever, listen to what he had to go through here. So lost his finger. He had to take a 63-mile snowmobile ride to get to an ambulance, and then he had to take a 3-hour ambulance ride to get to the hospital.
Unbelievable.
No word if he still has his finger intact or if he lost it.
You can't finish that story?
I don't know. I feel like I've kind of overstayed my welcome already with you when we're talking about dog sledding. But, our thoughts and prayers go to Yodam Haber, who probably is not going to be able to play the piano ever again. So
very true.
Fallen indeed.
Mozart, Beethoven. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's on the back burner now for him. But I've always been fascinated by the Iditarod. I also saw a story. This is where I thought you were going with it. At the lead race team, the dogs quit on him.
No way. I didn't
They just
see
stopped.
That part.
They were like, "Hey, I'm out.
Really?
Peace out.
Chalk the deuces." All right. Well, hey, I mean,
and so I don't blame the dogs, but that thing has always fascinated me. The Iditarod. That whole game. I mean, that is nuts. I mean, it's kind of like what's the endurance running, like where people will run like 150 miles in a day and stuff like that. What do you think? We're not on, Kyle. Of course we're on, Kyle. We're talking. What do you think? We're just talking to ourselves? Hey, by the way, Kyle here who just stopped by. He was this was the other guy that couldn't find us behind 17. It just took him 2 hours to find us behind 17.
It's pretty hard, right?
It's unbelievable.
Yep.
I mean, just keep walking, people.
I'm not
just
alone.
Keep walking. It's not that hard.
0 signs pointing you where to go. Okay.
Unbelievable. You can tell a country music star is playing, by the way. The 15 to 18-year-old girls walking in.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them here at the Players' Championship now that the John Pardee concert is happening momentarily. All right. My Fallen. Coos, you ready back there?
I'm always ready.
What's happening to the NBA, man? Yesterday.
Brent, easy.
And now today.
Careful where you go on this
Russell
line.
Westbrook, you're falling.
The realization of it is how it started was a young man and his wife in the stands told me to get down on my knees like he used to. And for me, that's just completely disrespectful to me. I think it's racial. I think it's just inappropriate in the sense of there's no protection for the players. I think there are a lot of great fans around the world that like to come to the game and enjoy the game. And there are people that come to the game and to say mean, disrespectful things about me, my family. For many years, man, I've done all the right things. I've never done anything to hurt or harm anybody. I've never been in any trouble. Never fought a fan. Been in the league 11 years. Clean slate. Humble. I take all the criticism from everybody. I've been doing the same thing for years. And for me, disrespect will not be taken from me. I'm completely just sit back sometime and just take it like that. That's just one video, but throughout the whole game, since I've been here, especially here in Utah, every time I come here, it's a lot of disrespectful things I said. And for me, I'm just not going to continue to take the disrespect from my family. I just think that there's got to be something done. There's got to be some consequences for those type of people that come to the game just to say and do whatever they want to say. And I don't think it's fair to the players, not just to me, but I don't think it's fair to the players. And if I had to do it over again, I would say the same exact thing, because I truly will stand up for myself, for my family, for my kids, for my wife, for my mom, for my dad every single time. I expect anybody else to do the same. So that's kind of where I'm at with the whole situation. As for his wife, I've never put my hand on a woman. I never will. Never been in any domestic violence before, never have before, but once he said the comment, his wife repeated it, the same thing to me as well. So that's kind of how that started. I know you guys only got the tail end of the video, but the start of the video is way more important and way more disrespectful than what you guys heard. So appreciate y'all.
Well, that's Russell Westbrook. And really, you know what, I shouldn't have led into that with my fallen. The situation is really the fallen. I don't fault Russell Westbrook with the exception of what he just said at the end. It doesn't matter. You know you're in that situation. You know you're in a fishbowl, and stuff like this happens, and it shouldn't. Again, this is not any defense of the fan. The fan's an idiot, and hopefully he gets tickets taken away and all that stuff. And I've seen some stuff all day on it where if you look at that guy's Twitter feed,
he said some
there's a
stuff.
lot of racist stuff on there.
That.
There's a lot of not nice stuff to begin with, whether it's racist or not, even in his Twitter feed. So people have gone back and found out this guy's a bad dude. Yeah. And I just don't think, in the video, Russell Westbrook, if you haven't seen this, also just said, I'm going to come up there and kick the you-know-what out of you and your wife.
Which I thought he kind of crossed the line and said his wife.
And that's what he was talking about at the end there. And again, that's heat of the moment. I don't think he would go physically do that. Now, he might go beat up the guy. I don't think he would do that. I think that's what he was discussing. I wish he didn't phrase it the way he said at the end, where I don't apologize for that. That's where it all came from, Yeah. I think he could have handled that part better. But the other 99%, that's out of hand, And I feel for the player. I think the players get lambasted sometimes by the fans. And it's one thing to get it on social media where it's whoever and they're not face-to-face and they would never say that. In fact, instead they would ask for your autograph instead of say something like that. Yeah. It's another thing to sit in an arena and you're the entertainer. And, yeah, people paid to entertain, but they didn't come pay to throw tomato cans at you, I mean, they didn't do that. You didn't sign up for that. Nope. So I don't like that. And I'm surprised. Are you surprised at all it's in Utah? Utah's a bad place. I guess they say Utah.
No, it is. Yeah,
Utah Jazz. They say it's a terrible place. It's historically awful with the fans when it comes to that kind of stuff. So that's my fault. The fans, you guys got to be better. We saw a fan come out of the stands and sucker punch a soccer player over the weekend. We hear this kind of stuff. It's going to escalate, and it's going to escalate. And I don't know if it's always going to be the player's fault. And it's a bad situation. We saw it years ago in Indiana. You can't have it. And hopefully something is done about it in Utah. That just leads me, before we take a break, you played. You've heard stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stuff. I've been down on the sideline before and heard stuff directed toward players. And I think we see it a little bit with Jalen Ramsey and Leonard Fournette at times going back and forth with people in the crowd. And to their credit, most of the time they're having fun with the person. But you never know. People are intoxicated. People are talking and saying stuff, again, that they wouldn't say at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday in the grocery store, And you've probably heard some stuff that just crosses the line.
Yeah, so here's where I stand on the Westbrook thing. I don't agree with how he called out the guy's wife. We can both agree that probably wasn't the right thing to do.
Everything else is fine. You can't do that. It's like don't retaliate from a bad moment from someone else with a bad moment for your own self. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so from my perspective, Brent, I told this story before where I was in Oakland and I tried to go in the stands a little bit and get in a little, I guess you'd call it a little ruckus with one of the fans that was talking crap. And truth be told, that fan was actually talking crap to Tyson. And listen, when it comes from the fans' perspective, I'm all for booing somebody. You can, talk about their play, how much they suck. That's fine. Like I'm for that. But when you start to get racial, and that's what happened with the whole Tyson thing. That's why I went in the stands in Oakland, and that's why Tucker, kind of had to threaten to bench me if I didn't get back down from the stands. Because,
take me back to that story. Did I miss that?
You know, I could have swore I told that. So basically what happened was we were in Oakland playing. I think it was like my second season. And there was, we're doing like the pregame warm-ups and stuff, and there was a fan who was saying some, I'm not going to repeat it, but he was saying some not so good stuff to my teammates.
Racially insensitive.
Yeah, especially Tyson Alualu. You know, Tyson, a guy I have a lot of respect for, and a guy who's not going to say anything. That's not Tyson's style. Well,
now you on the other hand.
Well, you know me, man. I can play. I can play with a lot of emotionally charged feelings sometimes, and I heard him say something bad about Tyson, and I turned around and I said, "What was that?" And he said it again. So I kind of went to where you can kind of climb up to the stands or whatever, and I was on my way to climbing up, and Mel Tucker, our defensive coordinator at the time, grabbed me by the back of the shirt and said, "If you go up there, you're sitting." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm not going to go up there," but I proceeded to keep on talking to that fan, and my point is this. I'm all for fans talking smack. I mean, you guys bought the ticket. By all means, do that. That's what being a fan's all about, I feel like.
Heckled's okay,
yeah,
right?
But anytime that you bring up a player's, I feel like religion, his family, or his ethnicity, then we got problems. And then I'm always going to take the player's side, regardless of the retaliation.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I can see why the human element is to react. Like in your case, to protect your buddy. Tyson Alualu, in that case. Yeah. If it was a family member, you'd protect.
Absolutely.
So, and that's okay on the street, but it's not okay when you're in a game.
No, it's not. And and looking back on it, probably not my smartest move, but I was I was a little emotional, and I didn't like how they were talking to Tyson, so I want to do something about it. Simple as that.
Well, listen, be better, fans. I mean, come on. You don't need to do all that. I know it's frustrating sometimes, or I know you paid for the ticket. Doesn't allow you to do that to other human beings at the very least. Let's go. ESPN 690 continues from the Players' Championship. TPC Sawgrass. We'll get back to some football talk, and we have a little Stay in Your Lane coming up next.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and while we're still digging into the reported details on the Nick Foles deal, experts around the league are saying that the move had less to do about putting points on the board for the Jaguars offense. Mike Golick Jr. says this was definitely a tip of the cap to the other side of the ball.
If we just eliminate some of those instances where our offense puts our defense in bad field position spots, we have a defense that's good enough to be a Ravens-type defense that can elevate you over that hump.
And what's been the only real shocker so far since the madness began, Anthony Barr, Minnesota's all-pro linebacker, had told the Jets he intended to take their big money offer, only to turn around a few hours later and take it back. He'll be staying in Minnesota this year. Former Jaguars defensive back Tayshaun Gibson didn't spend too long on the unemployment line. We're reporting now he intends to sign with the Texans, keeping him here in the AFC South. And speaking of the AFC South, the Titans will have a new number one receiver when the league season starts, and thy name will be Adam Humphries. Get the latest updates on NFL free agent signings by going to ESPN690.com and clicking the link for the late NFL headlines.
Why do local women watch Action News, Jax? Because the unexpected can mess up their day. They like to know about the rain, the recalls, and school changes because their families are depending on them. They need more than just crime stories. They want to be in the know with real investigations that truly impact them, not something they can just Google. Is that selfish? We don't think so. Their time is valuable. In fact, more women are now watching Action News, Jax than any other station.
The following message is sponsored by the Florida Department of Elder Affairs, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
As prescription costs rise, many Medicare beneficiaries are having difficulty keeping up. The Florida Department of Elder Affairs SHINE program may be able to help. SHINE counselors can guide you to money-saving programs, including one that may help pay your Medicare Part D costs. For more information, call 1-800-963-5337 or go to floridashine.org.
Hey everybody, this is Brent Martineau, and if you're looking for something to do for dinner tonight, I've got an idea. Family owned in Jacksonville for more than 40 years, fresh ingredients every day. That's what Renna's Pizza was built on, and that's what Renna's Pizza delivers. A menu to satisfy the entire family tonight. Fantastic pizza, fresh salad, and Italian favorites like lasagna. There's a Renna's Pizza near you. Marsh Landing, Bay Meadows, Argyle Forest, San Jose, and the newest location in Neptune Beach. Be a part of the family and get dinner tonight at Renna's Pizza.
Wendy's, the official hamburger of the NCAA, wants to give you a chance to win a Wendy's gift card and tickets to one of the hottest events in town. Go to the contest page on ESPN690.com now and enter for your chance to win. Tickets provided by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the NCAA.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30. Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios, here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Hey, welcome back here to ESPN 690 Action Sports Jacks on the radio. Will be on TV tonight, by the way. Don't forget to check out our specials coming up from the Players' Championship starting tomorrow night, 11:15 p.m. on CBS 47 and Fox 30, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Of course, only station in town and really probably the only station in the country that does half-hour shows all weekend, all year long. So it will be Players Championship heavy on Saturday and Sunday, 10:30 on Fox 30, 11:30 on CBS 47 as well. So a ton of coverage, and of course we'll mix our Players Championship coverage with all the Jags news, any more free agency, but really the introduction of Nick Foles here in Jacksonville, which will take place on Thursday. We'll have that covered for you as well. I think it's a busy Thursday with Nick Foles getting introduced and the Players Championship teeing off round number 1. But it's a fun week. Glad to be out here at the Players. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane. Coos is back pushing all the buttons and doing a great job today wrestling with some of the things we've wrestled through. But appreciate you hanging in there. Sal Palantonio was tremendous. Nolan Carroll, fantastic on Nick Foles as well. So some good insight. We've actually tried to reach out to some other folks, some players that played with Nick Foles in Philadelphia, and we're working on that. So if we do get that, we'll hopefully do some more of Nick Foles' conversation tomorrow when it comes to other folks. All right, you got a little stay in your lane?
A little stay in your lane. Got to give my props, actually, cruise control to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, what? Props?
Yeah.
They got hammered in that trade.
They did get hammered in the trade. This is not about the trade whatsoever. It's actually got nothing to do with Antonio Brown. It's got everything to do with Ryan Shazier. So I'm not sure if you've seen this, Brent, but actually the Steelers are going to bring back Shazier and put him on the PUP list. That's the unable to perform list. And basically what that does for Ryan is it guarantees his contract for that year. It also guarantees that he gets the NFL insurance, and it's also it's going to be an added year to his pension as well. So I feel like a team that didn't have to do that, it showed good faith in him. Obviously, Ryan Shazier is trying to play ball again. He's going through that recovery process as we speak and everything like that. But listen, you talk about a guy who had a devastating injury, who was really the heart and soul of that defense, a guy that they haven't really been able to replace yet, who they're still trying to replace as inside linebacker. But I think a really cool gesture by the Pittsburgh Steelers, extending that olive branch, basically bringing him back, still making him a member of the team and whatnot. And obviously it's going to be big for him to get that insurance and that pension as well.
That's awesome, by the way. That's a really cool story. And, when you say that story, you got me thinking a little bit. The Ryan Shazier thing did change their franchise. It did change the way, when you have a building block like that, and, obviously you're worried about his health and everything else, but from a team perspective, you have to go replace that, and I think he was starting to become part of the heart and soul of that team, that defense, to a degree. And I don't get me wrong here. I don't think he's the reason why Antonio Brown started calling people out and Big Ben started calling people out and Le'Veon Bell sat out the year. I mean, let's not be crazy. But I do think it really helped change the direction of that organization a little bit, because now you have to go get someone else, and you're still trying to handle the other side of it, the emotional side of that. That was a tough deal. And that's a cool gesture.
Yeah,
to that point, I think there are a lot of teams. See, what's happening now, and we talked a lot about it this week, is the money. And we're going to get to a point where there is going to be a big disagreement. I believe there will be a labor stoppage. But I think what we dismiss sometimes is that teams and players come together often and do some pretty cool things. And not just the Shazier thing. I think there are teams, I think the Jaguars, at least in the last handful of years that I've paid really close attention to it from a business side and got to know this regime, whether it was Gus Bradley and Dave Caldwell and now Coughlin and Marrone. I think they do some very good things from a business standpoint to help the player, to take care of the player. I think they will handle this Blake Bortles release in a classy way. I don't think there's been many things. I mean, you got to go back to when they released David Garrard after the lunch and him being introduced to see like something that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they handled it that way. That was a PR nightmare for the Jaguars, like to do that. And that was not a good look. But my point is I think they do business in a good way with players. And I think we're going to get to a point where it's like this there's this wall in between players and owners because each side will want something. And that's just negotiations. That's just the way it goes in life, really, but in sports. But I do think there are a lot of stories like the one you just told about Ryan Shazier. I mean, that one's unique because of his injury. But I do think teams and organizations and players come together to do some pretty cool things, not just in the community. I'm talking a business sense that we sometimes don't know about.
Yeah, without a doubt. And obviously I've never met the guy. I don't really know much about him. But from what I garnered, he's definitely still even the heart and soul of that defense. And especially when we talk about Pittsburgh, I get it. They had Antonio Brown, Big Ben. So we're talking more about their offense lately than more about their defense. But when he was playing, man, that defense was really humming. He was definitely the heart and soul of the team. So it's good. Don't get me wrong. This isn't the only team to do that. I think the Bears actually did something similar, if I'm not mistaken, with Zach Miller.
Have they done I don't know where he's at in terms of that, in terms of the contract. What did they honor, all those things?
I think I know from some capacity where they still have him like on the team and whatnot, so he's still getting that salary. He's still getting the insurance, which is obviously the most important part with his rehab and stuff like that. So and I know the Bears have done that as well, and I'm sure a lot of teams do that. Just I mentioned it.
Well, and too, and you've told us a little bit. The NFL, when you're in the NFL community anyway, you'll get some perks sometimes for the rest of your life, whether it's just joining the YMCA.
Yeah, that's
right?
huge,
right?
man.
You don't pay. I mean, you're a lifetime member of the YMCA.
Free YMCA membership, which is actually a really big deal when you think about it. I can add up after a while.
That's right. That's pretty good. And it promotes healthy lifestyle and all that stuff.
Sure.
So you get that. But I do think, too, you get some of the stars in organizations. I think those organizations usually welcome them back in roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Josh Scobie told me, we're going to have him on later this week, but I think he's doing an internship with the Jags this year of sorts, where he can kind of see what's going on. And I think that's a guy that gave 10 years to the organization. Obviously Tony Baselli and Jeff Lageman, and think about the guys that Fred Taylor that have been involved with the team, that played for a long time with the team. I think that happens across organizations, and I think that happens in the NFL. So that's a good thing to see. It's a good thing to be a part of if you're in that fraternity.
And you know what, man? And it's definitely a camaraderie. It's definitely a fraternity. I mean, just for instance, last week, a dude by the name of Kevin Glover, who works with the Detroit Lions, actually invited me and my family to come to a training camp. And Brent, this is the Lions team that I literally played like 4 games for, but he still reached out. He's with their pro personnel department. He's like, hey man, we'd love to get you if you're in Wisconsin, if you wanted to come up to Detroit, man, we'd love to have you and the family come out for, a training camp or a preseason game, something like that. So the fact that, like they would reach out to me and I literally only served a fraction of time there in Detroit, it really says a lot about, NFL franchises and things like that. So
all right,
props to the Lions.
Pump your brakes.
Pump your brakes real quick. Got to bring it up. Oh yeah. Now I remember. Lori Loughlin, a.k.a. Aunt Becky from Full House, and Felicity Hoffman are in some kind of trouble.
Aunt Becky?
Yeah, Aunt Becky's in trouble. You see what happened?
I say aunt, you say aunt.
Aunt,
yeah.
Auntie. Did you see what happened, though, why she's in trouble?
I didn't.
So, apparently, there's a giant...
I liked Aunt Becky, though.
Well, who didn't? But there's a... You're not going to like her after this, or maybe you will. So there's a problem where Aunt Becky and Felicity Hoffman, who's another actress who I'm not really familiar with, but there's actually a dozen people involved in the scandal where there's actually an admissions scandal going on with universities right now. And
I saw that.
Yeah. So, and what ended up happening is parents, I guess, that had a lot of money and their kids might have been a little under the status quo when it comes to ACT, SAT scores, or maybe GPAs, reached out to universities. And in doing so, they actually set up a thing where they got their kids to be a quote-unquote athlete. And what that basically means is if your kid's an athlete and is getting considered for a scholarship, the university can kind of bend the rules a little bit when it comes to,
little leniency.
Not saying it happened to me, but it is convenient. But anyways, well, it just turns out that some of these parents, their kids aren't actually athletes, and the FBI has investigated this and busted them. So a story to definitely keep in mind and keep watching to see how it develops. But some parents are in trouble.
Are colleges and universities like the most crooked thing going?
Top 10, huh? I would say.
I mean, think about it. I mean, it's...
Well,
and by the way, I'm not surprised at all. I just thought that happened. Like, I didn't even know the FBI needed to investigate that. I just figured that kind of stuff happened.
Well,
you got money, hey, get my kid in.
I guess I was kind of naive to that fact. I mean, I get it. Like, hey, if you're a great athlete, maybe your GPA is not the best, but you're definitely going to go play, at a university. That's not a big deal. But I didn't know you could just, pay to have, coaches say that your kid's getting recruited for a sport and then they get in. Like, I had no idea that was going on. I'm just naive.
Yeah.
That's
That's
why.
naive.
Yeah. Well, that's why.
it.
That's why my son's gonna be a good GPA and a good athlete.
Scholarships all over the place.
Yep.
Hey, when we come back, one more segment from TPC Sawgrass, the Players Championship. Our coverage is brought to you by the law office of John Phillips, and we're talking Tiger Woods, Nick Foles, Blake Bortles when we come back.
This is Golic and Wingo.
NFL insider Adam Schefter is with us. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Tom Coughlin comes out with this statement. Where do you think this is headed?
They're going to be exploring other avenues, with them being one of the most, if not the most disappointing team in football, starting at the quarterback position. They'll start there, and they'll branch out, and I would expect that they'll obviously discuss the idea of moving on from Leonard Fournette, as they will with other disappointing players there this offseason.
Golic and Wingo, weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Whether you're buying a new or a pre-owned vehicle, your experience should never be anything less than exceptional. Hey everybody, it's Brent Martineau of Action Sports Jacks. And if you're considering a new or pre-owned vehicle, I encourage you to go see my friends at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. I'm so impressed with how they treat their customers. They're good people. No one wants to be haggled or pressured at a car dealership. And my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville understand that. And they emphasize a no-risk, no-pressure approach. Their team will get you into the right car at the right price. And if for any reason you are not completely satisfied with your new or pre-owned vehicle, you can bring it back to Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville within the first 7 days for your money back. Take it from me. We drive a Hyundai in our family, and I encourage you to visit JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com to schedule a test drive. And you too will be impressed at how they treat the customer. Exceptional service at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. When you get to the Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville showroom, make sure you tell them Brent Martineau sent you.
As we reach our 67th year of serving the Jacksonville community, we are grateful for all the support we've received since our founding in 1952 at NAS Jacksonville. Today, ViStar still holds true to our military roots and is honored to provide ongoing assistance and financial education, and to sponsor and participate in more than 200 events and charities each year. We thank our military and veterans for the sacrifices they've made for all of us, and our community for putting their trust in us. ViStar Credit Union. We never forget that it's your money. Insured by NCUA.
Hey everybody, this is Brent Martineau, and if you've received a letter from the IRS and you cannot pay them, things can get bad quickly. The IRS can seize your bank accounts and garnish your wages. If this is you, make sure you contact J. David Tax Law, an award-winning local firm right here in Jacksonville. Recently voted the best tax attorney in Jacksonville by Folio Weekly readers, and also selected as an ultimate tax attorney by the Jacksonville Business Journal. Your first step to stop IRS harassment is a no-cost consultation. They explain exactly your options and how they will resolve your tax issue. Only trust an experienced and award-winning tax firm to represent you. The fastest way to get started is to call 904-507-4777. Peace of mind only a click or phone call away, online at jdavidtaxlaw.com. That number again, 904-507-4777, or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com.
Now through April 14th, Wawa and the Wawa Foundation are hosting an in-store coin donation campaign for American Red Cross local disaster relief efforts. Visit your local Wawa and donate today. Wawa and the Wawa Foundation are partnering with the American Red Cross to help those affected by local disasters. Through April 14th, we invite you to make a donation at any Wawa store and help support others in your community when they need it the most.
Hey everybody, this is Brent Martineau, and if you're looking for something to do for dinner tonight, I've got an idea. Family owned in Jacksonville for more than 40 years, fresh ingredients every day. That's what Renna's Pizza was built on, and that's what Renna's Pizza delivers. A menu to satisfy the entire family tonight. Fantastic pizza, fresh salad, and Italian favorites like lasagna. There's a Renna's Pizza near you, Marsh Landing, Bay Meadows, Argyle Forest, San Jose, and the newest location in Neptune Beach. Be a part of the family and get dinner tonight at Renna's Pizza.
Now you have a bunch of young guys who found out we were all on the trade block. Now that trade didn't go through, so I agree with Magic, and you got to put on your big boy pants, but we all don't know how everybody's going to deal with it.
Golic and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 690.
Now, back to Action Sports Jacks with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass, here on a Tuesday in Jacksonville, Florida. Really Ponte Vedra Beach for this one. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, Coos back in the studio. And by the way, to reset things as we end the show, we're going to talk a little Nick Foles, Blake Bortles, Tiger Woods. But before we get into that, we do have to mention that if you missed near the top of the show, Austin Lane basically ran across a fairway to try to get out here behind 17.
Yeah, so basically I was in the media center with Brent. Brent took off a little soon because he had to get, set up the show and whatnot. Well, I had to take full advantage of the spread that they had, which was, did you try some of the food today?
What did I have? What was today?
It was.
What day is today?
Today's Tuesday, so they had chicken, mushrooms. It was a nice Caesar salad.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had the
had
strawberries and whatever salad.
Okay, well
does that make me less of a man?
No comment.
Yeah.
Anyways, but they also had these little sushi things. So they had sushi bowls.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and then they had these little hand rolls as well.
Ah.
So I was grubbing on those, and by the time I stopped grubbing, I was having some conversation with some people in the media center, just trying to put my name out there a little bit in the whole golf world. Ended up realizing, whoa, I got 15 minutes to get to where I'm supposed to be, so I better get booking. Well, I think I walked out the wrong direction to start out with. I started walking towards the parking lot. That was the wrong direction. I walked the other way, and by that time I had 8 minutes to get here. No idea where here was. So I asked somebody where the show was. Hey, we're 17. They're like, oh, it's just across that way. I'm like, just across that way. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So,
you ran across.
So I see a wide open pasture, for me to run on, and I ran across, and security yelled at me and said, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" And I showed him I had my badge, my media badge around my neck, and I go, "Don't worry, it's cool." And I showed him the media badge, and he was not impressed, and I kind of got yelled at a little bit, but thankfully my pass was not revoked. I made it here with seconds to spare, and I was here on time.
Unbelievable. And I bet I can't wait to get back to the media center and see if your pass has been revoked. There'll probably be a story back there about it. One other quick note. We're trying to do a lot of things, right? We got the video going. The video went out earlier. We were losing power all over the place. The phone's going out. I'm like, wait a minute. We're plugged in. We are plugged in. We got a power strip. We have power. This was working the other day. Why isn't it working? The guy over there for the first tee who was doing an event comes over, helps me out. He's like, the power strip wasn't on.
Probably turn it on. Yeah.
So basically, if you're watching on video today on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter, or on Twitch, and we go dark for a little bit, it's because we forgot to put the power. Well, no, I forgot to put the power.
Yeah, don't throw me that category, man.
Yeah, you have enough.
What was going on?
Yeah. Your credentials getting revoked, so you've got enough to worry about. All right, I want a quick hitter on a couple of things. Nick Foles. We talked to Sal Paolantonio, and we talked to Nolan Carroll, who played with him, Jacksonville guy who played with Nick Foles in 2014. Obviously, the stuff that really resonates, and we'll share it on social media, and we'll share it even more probably throughout the next couple of days. Sal Paolantonio really strong on Nick Foles. And how cool is this? Kuzia said Sal Paolantonio called in the last break and said he really enjoyed spending time with us talking about Nick Foles. So he gave us his number, said call anytime, and we're going to get Sal Pal on more.
What I think the issue is, obviously him and Foles have the timeshare together. I think they're trying to go quads here and get us in the timeshare as well.
This is a good place to have one.
I'm not going to complain if we get timeshare, Brent. I'm down.
But he called him the best player in Eagles history, and he admitted not everybody will agree with him when it comes to that. He said, beloved in Philadelphia. The fan base is torn in Philadelphia about Wentz and Foles. Very interesting comments, and he says he'll be a fantastic leader, and the community will feel his presence right away in Jacksonville. We're about to see if it happens as Nick Foles is coming to Jacksonville. That will be official tomorrow, and he'll sign and be introduced on Thursday. As for Blake Bortles, continue the comments because I want to talk more about Bortles tomorrow and what he means to the city, what he's remembered by for his time as a Jacksonville Jaguar. I think we'll talk more about Bortles because I think that will become official tomorrow too. Whether it's a trade or a release, I expect a release, so there are some rumblings that a trade could happen. So more comments tonight. You can go on social media about that. You can always check out the podcast, by the way, ESPN Action Sports Jacks on ESPN 690 if you missed any of the show. And one last thought. Tiger Woods talked to the media today, and Tiger Woods played a few holes today with Justin Thomas. He'll, I think, play 9 more holes tomorrow, and then he tees it up in the afternoon on Thursday. Tiger, always a big draw. We'll talk about him all week long, but one of the things he commented on was analytics. I kind of like this response.
I do. Wins. I like looking at where I am and in relation to how I've played my best. Not necessarily in relation to what the tour is or what is, the new formulas and new analytics of strokes gained and stuff like that. I try not to get involved in what the other guys are doing, but what is it in relation to when I was playing? And sometimes some of those numbers aren't available because we didn't have it. But something close to it, and I try and get my attention away from what other players are doing and what I'm doing, and so that's been how I've looked at it. And a lot of it is a lot of self-reflecting and trying to be honest with myself of where I think that I'm not very good at and things that I am good at. And the thing is, I have to be conscious of that. I can't practice like I used to. I can't devote the hours like I used to on every facet of my game. I got to pick 20 minutes here, an hour there, and then focus on this part of my game. So I can't practice on all parts of my game. And I've had to try and figure that out, and that's how it's going to be going forward.
Tiger Woods talking about, I really thought the best part of that reaction when asked about analytics was the first 10 seconds where he said, yeah, I do care about analytics. Wins.
I like his style, man. That was an awesome comment.
And he's got 80 of them. So more Tiger Woods talk, of course, throughout the week. We'll catch up with all the other golfers and the happenings at TPC Sawgrass and the Players Championship, trying to balance the players this week, and the golf really gets going on Thursday, along with the news of Nick Foles and the rest of free agency. A lot happening. But this is going to be an exciting couple of days. I'm not going to lie. Sal Paolantonio got me fired up about Nick Foles.
No, I mean, I'm fired up too. I'm just trying to think about how I'm going to get out of here without getting yelled at again. That's my biggest thing right now, bro. I'm sorry. I can't talk about Foles right now because I'm nervous that I'm going to break the law again and go on the fairway.
Well, just think, by this time of day, there's a lot of people breaking the law.
Good point.
Here.
Yeah. Speaking of breaking law, I'm not sure who's playing the country music right now, but...
You don't like it?
It's all right, man. I saw Dierks Bentley here like 4 years ago, and that was a good show.
John Pardee.
John Pardee.
Right now, he's a really...
Wait. John Pardee or John Pardee?
I kind of call him Pardee, but for this one, you can say it's the John Pardee Party.
Of course, the guy's name's John Pardee, plays country music. Yeah.
Don't hate on country music.
I'm not, man. I love country music.
All right. Hey, and we love you.
Thanks,
we'll see
man.
you at the Players Championship tomorrow. And I'll see you on TV tonight for Coos, Sal Paolantonio, Nolan Carroll, and Austin Lane.
Stay
I'm
off
Brett
the
Martineau.
fairways.
Stay in your lane. I'll see you on Fox 30 and CBS 47 tonight.
It's hard to beat that new car smell, especially when it's a brand new Hyundai. Hey everybody, it's Brett Martineau of Action Sports Jacks, and I think we can all agree there's something to that new car smell you just can't beat. You also can't beat the exceptional service at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. It's a brand new dealership here in town, and my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville live by giving you the most superb car buying experience you can get. No one likes to be haggled or pressured when buying a car. The staff at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville understands this,